the vice chair of the Historic Districts Commission in Concord, and I'm acting on behalf of Chair Peter Nobile, who cannot attend the meeting tonight. Welcome to the November 4th, 2021 meeting of the Town of Concord Historic Districts Commission. The Commission will review 6 continuances and 4 new applications this evening. And we will also conduct some additional business at the end of the meeting. We want to do a roll call of the members of the Commission, and I will go according to this list, which is Nia Glenn.
Here.
Paul Ware.
Here. Yes.
Melinda Shumway.
Here.
Kate Chartiner.
Here.
Abigail Flanagan.
Here.
Dennis Fiore. Are you on, Dennis?
Dennis is muted.
He's muted, yeah.
Automatically mute myself. Here.
Okay. And Catherine Mast.
Here.
And Luis Persuade myself, I'm here. Voting members will be the full members of the Commission: Nia Glenn, Paul Ware, Kate Chartiner, and myself. And I will ask Abigail Flanagan to fill the 5th position as a voting member.
Sure.
Some housekeeping chores. We are conducting this meeting online in accordance with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Order, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. The public may access this call through both telephone and video conferencing. Members of the public will have an opportunity to ask questions and provide public comments on applications and discussions following the petitioner's presentations and questions from the Commission. To do so, please raise your hand in the participant function of the Zoom meeting platform. If you are calling in and cannot use the platform, you may raise your hand by dialing *9. Our host will mute microphones of those not speaking, and in order to preserve bandwidth, and mainly to turn off video, with the exception of the commissioners, the host, and the current applicant. I will call on each commissioner for comments on an application, and then open the meeting for public comment. Once there are no more public comments, I will ask for a motion from the Commission to continue, to approve with conditions, or to disapprove. A second, and then conduct a roll call vote. Once the Commission has acted on an application, the applicant is free to leave the meeting. So the first application we have is a continued hearing from Monument Square for a certificate of appropriateness to install a bronze plaque to honor George Washington Dugan.
Hi. So if you remember, I was here a few months ago requesting to be able to place a plaque next to the existing Civil War memorial to honor George Dugan, a resident of Concord who fought with the 54th Mass. So I'm really here tonight just to kind of keep us on your radar. But since your last meeting that I attended, the Select Board has appointed a 6-month-long Civil War Memorial Task Force. So 6 months from their appointment, which was a month ago, they're going to go back to the Select Board with a recommendation as to how they want to honor George Dugan. And they're going to go back to the Select Board, hopefully in 6 months, with your blessing, approval. So they're probably going to be coming to you, if possible, if we could be just moved to your January agenda. They think next month might be a little too quick to come. They are thinking January might be good, if that is possible. And it would probably be a member of that committee. Rick Fries is the chair of that committee. My guess is it would be him that would be doing the presentation for you. But it probably won't be me.
Well, one of the options that we have, in theory, we could continue the application forever, but in the current circumstances, keep in mind that there has been a commission appointed to to explore this issue. Probably the best strategy is just to withdraw the current application and make a new application when the commission is ready and the town is ready to make those recommendations or to make that application. Is that something that would be suitable with you?
Yeah, it would be them doing it, not me. So it's fine with me, but.
I mean,
yeah.
with the town.
So my question is, just logistically, I don't remember how I did this, honestly. When they fill out the application and submit it to you, does that have to be done the month prior to the meeting that they would be attending?
It's usually done a month ahead of time, and Heather can confirm this. And again, this is something that works well both for the applicant and for the commission. So there's time to review all the documents.
Right. Okay, so they would then have to resubmit or submit a new application beginning the first September?
Exactly. They would withdraw the current application and then resubmit a new application.
Okay. Okay, I will let them know that. And to be on your January agenda, they would have to have that in by the 5th or 6th of December.
By the beginning of December.
Okay.
So if the applicant is withdrawing the application, Heather, should we have a public comments, or can we just go ahead and ask for a vote whether to approve the withdrawal? Or actually,
I think you can ask if
approved.
there's any public comment, but then there should be a motion to accept the withdrawal.
Okay, then I will ask for a motion from the commission to either accept or deny the withdrawal of the application of a Monument Square to install a bronze plaque commemorating the life of George Washington Dugan.
I move that we approve the withdrawal of the application for the town of Concord Monument Square to install a bronze plaque to honor George W. Dugan.
Second.
Okay, so there's a roll call, and I'll start with the organization, which is Paul.
Aye.
Agree or disagree?
Aye. Agree.
Kate?
Aye.
Nia?
Aye.
Made the motion. Abby?
Aye.
Dennis? Catherine?
Aye.
And Melinda? Okay, so the motion is approved.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next applicant is 51 Walden Street for installed ventilation, air conditioning, and related equipment. And I understand, Heather, that the applicant wishes it to be continued to November 18th. Is that correct?
So we had already approved a continuance request to November 18th. It was mistakenly placed on tonight's agenda. So we don't need to take any action on this. It will not be discussed. It has actually been continued already to the 18th.
Okay, so we will continue with the discussion of 615 Lowell Road in the Barrett Farm Historic District for the certificate of appropriateness to construct a single-family dwelling on a vacant lot. There have been revised floor plans and elevations, and there have been a number of public comments and emails that are available in the website. The application as it stands asks for constructing a 3,420 square feet house with an attached two-car garage, and I believe that these measurements may have changed a little bit. So, is the applicant here?
Yes, yep. How you doing?
Okay. Hello, Mike. If you
Yeah,
want
we
to go
submit-
ahead and make a...
Yes, I will. We submitted, yeah, same process as last time. So I'll go over the new info that you have. Unfortunately, Elise could not make it tonight. She had a prior commitment, so I have some notes from her. So we submitted a completely new plan and a new site plan is there. I guess if you want to start with this first floor plan, I can kind of go through I'll kind of wear Elise's hat tonight, although I'm certainly not qualified, but I'll go through the process of this design here. The new garage, what we did in this new plan is the garage is front facing at the front here. This plan is kind of confused. Maybe put up the site plan first, Heather, and then people can see that better, possibly, just to get a perspective of. Yeah, there we go. So I'll just talk about this for a second, and then we can go back to that plan. So it's a front. The garage is going to face. It's got a side entrance garage, but it faces the street. So you're going to come in on that driveway and take a left into the garage. So you do not see a garage from the street. I think there was a lot of concerns and input from the last comments. We sit down and go through all your comments, your input, and try to build something that you're all asking for. If you want to go back to that floor plan now, that hopefully everyone can see that. Yeah. So you're going to the driveway enters in on the left-hand side of this plan, the way you look at it. Then you take a left into the garage. Yeah, there you go. The garage, I know people had requested way out back, but if we put it way out back, you're talking about a lot of pavement going all the way out back there. So I don't think, in reading your regulations, pavement is a no-no. This garage is, it's a gable garage with a small shed roof. Maybe you can go to one of the elevations, maybe the left side elevation. Yeah, and go up to the front there. And what we did this to keep the height of the garage down, so it does not look like a big structure at all. Yeah, if you want to go back to that floor plan. It's semi-detached. It's connected by an open walkway there. It's only connected by a roof. You can see between the garage and the mudroom. Yeah. Again, I know there were suggestions trying to make an attached garage or detached garage, so tried to hit it in the middle. From there, if you go and look, the main part of the house. Now, yeah, go here, Heather. Thanks. This is the main body of the house. It's moved way back from the street, with the garage taking up some of view. It's a smaller view from the street again of what we originally proposed. With the idea, again, moving it back, I think that was a lot of the comments, was trying to keep it away from the street and have it changing the massing from the street. The majority, if you keep moving back, Heather, the majority of the massing is back here of the house, which is, you can't see from anywhere. You can't see from Lowell Road, and it's blocked by 625 Main Lowell Road from Barrett's Mill. That's the majority of the massing back in this end of it here. The big thing is we changed from a colonial, again, to keeping your massing, trying to define massing and keeping your massing concerns. It's now a cape. It's not a colonial. So I don't know if you can maybe go to some of those elevations, Heather. It's only 24 feet tall. I think we were out there, the last house was 30 feet tall. So we've dropped 6 feet off the height of the overall structure, if you remember the ridgepole that's still out there. It's kind of it. In general, I've gone through all the YouTube meetings. We've listened to all your comments, and massing is the big one. This here is significantly smaller in massing to our other two proposals. I think this is our third full proposal. That's kind of it in a nutshell. If you maybe go to the site plan, Heather, and the big thing here in this site plan, again, concerns with setbacks, and we're filling the lot. As you can see, we've moved way off the setback lines. And we do have the ability to, not too much, but I can move further left by about, I guess, 5 feet, keeping my right side of a butter in mind. We can move this structure right on the left side setback. But otherwise, we're, I guess, 35 feet in that back left corner. Nowhere near setback to setback lines. Again, I'm trying to address, we listened to all your input and your concerns and try to address as many as we can. Back to the driveway, that's why the driveway is out front. If you can imagine a garage way out the back, you'd have a big, big driveway with a lot of asphalt, black asphalt. This moves away from all the trees, any concerns of the trees. I think that's about the highlight of it there. If you want to do questions, Louis, or whatever you'd like to do.
Well, I think that we should ask all the members of the commission about their comments. Let's start with Nia.
Okay, hi, Mike, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, thank you. I did want to just, if you give me a moment, I just wanted to make a comment before I start on specifics. Just because I think there's been a general, misunderstanding on the part of the public or some of the public. It's my understanding that the planning department has determined that this is a buildable lot. And as such, it's the HDC's charge to work with the applicant, just as we would work with any other applicant that came before us, to see if we can agree on a plan that is appropriate for this site. It is not, and I emphasize not, within our purview to simply say, no, you can't build anything on this lot. Nor can we wave a magic wand and say this is going to be open space. So I just want that to be clear to the public. In terms of the current plan, I think, Mike, there has very definitely been progress. I like the design of the actual body of the house. I think that the dormer in front helps to reduce the massing. I think the clapboard on the lower level versus the what looks like shingle on the upper level also helps divide, sort of break up the massing. So I think that is positive. I think less hardscape is positive. I think it is positive that you have pulled it back from, the sides a little bit, so that's good. I did have a couple of questions. The front of the actual house, not the garage. How far is that now from Lowell Road?
I'm going to do it real quick here. Well, that second check line you see in the site plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one there. That's the 120-foot line where you have to. It's hard to explain, but it's a zoning bylaw. So that's 120 feet at the check line, and so there's probably another maybe 5 to 6. So it looks like roughly 125 feet back from my lot line. Now, don't forget Lowell Road's even further. There's probably another 15 feet.
Right.
If
Okay.
you recall Peter asking about that wedge and the sidewalk. So I would say you're 150 feet back from Lowell Road.
Okay. All right. And what is the square footage of this house relative to the one that was presented before?
I would almost, can I ask a question back to you? I'm curious as to why you're asking the square footage.
Well, I'm just
struggled-
interested. I was trying to take the site plan for both plans and compare them because you've made changes, and in my opinion, there's been a lot of improvement. It's still, when I look at the floor plan, and it still to me is reading like a very big house for a very narrow lot. And I commend you for improvements, and I think we are moving in the right direction. But this is still a 5-bedroom house. The downstairs.
No, this is 4.
I understand your reasoning, but the downstairs study, so to speak, has a closet and a full bath. And in my book, that makes it a 5-bedroom. It may not be classified, but
Yeah,
that,
I see what you're saying, but what we found in today's market, that people like that versatile room where it can be used as a guest room, but
I
get what you're
understand.
saying. Yep.
I totally understand. And I'm struggling with this, Mike, because I hear you. It's the lot, it's not the house. Elise has created a wonderful design. I am still very conflicted over the garage. I see your reasoning. I see that you have made an effort to make it look smaller. It still is against our guidelines to have it in that location. To me, the breezeway just makes it longer. So I'm not a big favor of breezeway. We did one over on Lexington Road. That little tiny yellow house that was condemned was taken down, and we allowed a breezeway there, and it just ruined the house. It just made it look so long. And I think on the floor plan, you also have a screen porch, which I don't know if that's still
Yeah,
there,
good
not
point.
there.
I'm sorry. Yeah, good point. That's missing on
Yeah.
this site plan. Yeah,
So-
good point.
So even though improvements have been made from Lowell Road, the problem for you here is you are facing 2 historic districts streets, both Barrett's Mill and Lowell Road and Hildreth Corner. And I still think this house needs to be smaller. I mean, my personal opinion, which of course is worth absolutely 0, I'm sure, is you could still make this similar design and make it smaller and it be incredibly marketable at a good price. I don't know what my fellow commissioners are going to say about the garage. I hear you that, tons of driveway would impact the maples. That it would also be an incredible amount of hardscape, but again, it's the fault of the lot. I can't endorse a garage that is that close to the road. And even though it's not facing Lowell, it is facing Hildreth Corner and Barrett's Mill. So, I mean, as I say, I feel badly about this because I commend you. You've listened to us. You've made a lot of improvements. But the bottom line for me is the scale, the massing, the size is still too big for this lot. And I don't think it would take a lot to make this acceptable.
Yeah, I could try to answer some of this stuff. So as you struggle, we struggle between square footage and massing. I guess that is why I asked your question. So I've done
Yeah.
everything. I've tried to almost ignore square footage and done, it seems like massing is the most important thing.
It is.
And I think this massing is dramatically less. It's dramatically less than next door. And I'd almost ask for someone to clarify your massing language. I've read it multiple times. I've had multiple attorneys read it. I've had civil engineers read it. And none of us can really wrap our arms around it. And some of it, where is large massing? What defines massing? And who says large massing is bad? Compared to the right next door to me, my massing is, at this point, less than half of his massing. So where is the big massing bad? That's comments there. My next comments, I know you've brought up from your last meeting. I try to take good notes, and you have concerns from Barrett Mill side. If you can see that 120-foot mark, I think that is roughly in line with my abutter. The only thing you're going to see from Barrett's Mill is the garage. I do not think you'll be able to see this house in a very, it's blocked.
I would be more than willing to come out and do another site visit and have us look at this house staked out.
Sure. Yeah, no, I fully expected we would go down that route. I still have, and I know I got other things. I know you brought up the garage. Now, and you brought up another house on Lexington Road, but I think right down the street in the other Archstone development, they renovated that house. And you guys put that side entrance garage that is very similar to this.
I'll tell
It's
you
identical.
about that, Mike. Mike, in that particular case, and that was another very difficult property, such as this narrow, we're faced with putting the driveway all the way down and a garage and back. In the particular case of, I think it's 445 Lowell, they had a very significant bank there, and they were able to literally cram the garage into the side of the bank, and it almost disappeared. It doesn't disappear entirely,
Yeah.
but it honestly is a very different situation. I hear what you're
Sure.
saying, because it is in front, and we struggled with that greatly, and I'm actually pleased with the way it came out, because it was tucked away so much, and you still just see the impact of the house. I think
Right.
this is very different, because I think it is much more exposed from all corners. But I hear
Yeah.
you.
Well, we're stuck in this garage conversation. We're stuck with the catch-22. Do you want it in
Right.
the back with massive amounts of pavement, or we put it out here? There's no other choices. We could put it all the way in the back of the lot, and you have this huge amount of asphalt, and we're going by those trees. We can only solve some of the problems.
Right, and I assume this is absolute sacrilege, but I'm going to ask anyway. Would you consider for a nanosecond not having a garage?
No, that's not an option. Not in today's market, today's world.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I can do everything I can to make it not look like a garage.
Right, right.
We can work with those garage doors over there.
Mm-hmm,
We can work with the design of it.
mm-hmm,
I hear your concerns loud and clear, but there has to be a garage.
okay.
And in reading your language, reading your bylaws, asphalt's a no-no in your bylaws.
Oh, yes.
Deep.
Unfortunately, we got a lot of no-nos, and the nature of this lot makes avoiding no-nos very
Oh yeah,
difficult.
I understand. We're hitting a lot of them. We're hitting all parts of them, but if
But
I'd like to-
I've been talking way too long, and I apologize to my fellow commissioners. So it's time for
problem.
somebody else to speak. But thank you
Thank you,
for
Nia.
listening, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nia. Paul, do you want to go ahead now?
Yeah, sure. Mike, well, first of all, let me reiterate Nia's comments to the public. The essential one being that we're not in a position to veto any building on the lot, notwithstanding the sentiments of the community. So that's not part of our charter, and it's not where this is going to end up. The question is how we best solve a combination of how we balance a set of competing principles here. But Mike, I want to go back to one of Nia's questions, which was the square footage. And maybe we don't have a right to ask, I don't know, but on this whole massing issue, I've lost track of the proportion by which you've reduced the size, the actual size of the dwelling.
Yeah, I can so this is our third plan, if you recall. We're
Right.
third, completely separate. The first one, we were at 3,800 with another 400 about garage. That one was basically ejected to out of hand at our first meeting. We didn't get much further on that one. The next plan was 3,400 square feet with 400 feet above a garage. We made a little headway with that plan, but ultimately was rejected. We usually have the square footage on the plan. I'm not trying to be elusive. I think this one's right around 3,700 square feet, 3,800 square feet, right in there. But I do stand by, this is drastically less in massing. And that's why I feel like, I don't know how you connect the two. And you certainly,
Well, okay,
certainly
all right.
know.
That may be, but it seems to me a relevant question. At least it helps me think about it.
Sure.
But so we've gone from 38 to 34 to 3,700, roughly, order of
Yes.
magnitude. Is that
Yes,
right?
exactly.
Okay. And the garage is constant at roughly 400 as between the last hearing that we had and this hearing. Is that
No, we've
correct?
got better there, because both of the other plans had 400 square feet above the garage.
Okay, and
And
now,
there's no space above the garage. We lowered the roof and gave up on it.
okay, 0. Okay, good. So this is another, I guess, off the grid question, but is there any potential to excavate a garage so that the garage, whether approaching from the side or elsewhere, is under the building?
No, you know, there's an old saying in building, don't fight the land. And that's basically a flat building lot. You know, if you had a walkout or something like that, you can wrestle that, but no, that's basically a flat building lot.
So that's not going to happen. I know it's more expensive because,
Well, you know, it's just it's not feasible on a flat building lot. So you come in at street level, right? And you're trying to you think of it as you're trying to put your garage in the basement of a house, because the whole lot is flat. When you see garage
Right.
unders and stuff, that means the land's sloping and it welcomes an underneath. But this,
okay,
no.
anyway,
Yeah.
I think
I think there's tricks here that we can do with the garage to make it not look like a garage, you know, from an aesthetics point of view.
yeah. So at this juncture, that garage could again be moved behind the building. And the reason you moved it out front is so that you could move the house further back. Is that correct?
Yeah, for a number of reasons. Yes, that, and I've read your regulations more times than I care to count. And there's a lot of language in your regulations about asphalt and not wanting
Well,
asphalt.
is there an alternative, such as you see on Cape Cod with gravel driveways, or does that help? I mean, I don't honestly remember the specific language
Sure.
of our, but is there an alternative to pure hardscape that is pavement? Obviously, that has plowing issues, it has maintenance issues, but could it be done with gravel, or
You know,
you
it's,
wouldn't do shells, but you would do?
yeah, I know what you're saying, but it's still a lot of hardscape. You know, whether it's asphalt, you know what, black asphalt is, you don't like, but that's a lot of driveway.
It's a lot of driveway, but if it's permeable, maybe that's a step forward. I don't know.
Right,
I'm just raising it for your consideration.
Yeah, and the same thing, I think a lot of our issues, back to with the comments with Near, is we're gonna end up in catch-22 situations. So yeah, we can do that, but now we move the mass of the house back to the front. So we're trying to really meet a little of everything here.
Refresh me, just one more question here.
Yeah.
Refresh me on the distance from the garage to Lowell Road. The house is 150 feet, but the garage, the side of the garage.
It's right there. The garage is 41 feet to my lot line, but Lowell Road is almost another 15 feet. We have town property out there, the sidewalk. So I'd say to Lowell Road, the front of that garage is 55.
Mhm. Okay, well, in any event, I too want to compliment you for making tremendous progress here. I'm ambivalent about this. I don't love the idea of a garage being the focal piece from Lowell Road, but I think you've certainly improved on the overall.
Can I ask if you feel the side entrance helps that issue instead of a front facing garage? Because that's a side entrance garage. So from Lowell Road, in theory, you don't see a garage.
Yeah, I think that does help. I mean, I think it looks a little funny, but you're not going to probably see a whole lot of it from Lowell Road. So that's good. I mean, I don't love the idea of a garage facing Lowell Road, but you're down to relatively few alternatives here. So I'm less a fan of this design with the garage in front than I personally was of the garage in the back, even though it makes for tighter quarters in the back.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, those are my comments, and
Yeah,
I know
I
that.
appreciate it. You know, we're all trying to balance 5 or 6 different opinions. I like the last plan. I really like the last plan, but it was basically summarily rejected.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that likely would have been the result, but I find this less attractive and less consistent with the escapes from Lowell Road and Barrett's Mill. Anyway, I pass the microphone at this point.
Okay, let's have Dennis. Would you like to make some comments, please?
Hello?
Hello, Dennis. You want to
Oh,
go
sorry.
ahead?
I went to close the door. I think this is a big improvement. I agree with all the comments that have been made so far. Nia covered a lot of territory. I like the garage much better where it is. I think that a side entry garage is much more attractive because you don't see a lot of the garage door which faces you, which I find obtrusive. I have to say that at the last meeting, I think it came through loud and clear. We wanted to see a smaller house. And I know we're dealing with a massing versus square footage problem, but square footage is still square footage. And to go from 34 to 37 is not in the right direction. So I still have a problem with that. And I don't think one has to exclude the other. You can have great massing and you can have a smaller house. I think Nia's point about 5 bedrooms, it may be a versatile room and a guest room, but it's still the possibility of another bedroom. So I think 4 is quite enough on this space. And that may be too many. So I think it needs to be brought down in scale, but I'll say that this has come a long way and I like it much better than any we've seen all along. I wanted to make one other comment, and that has to do along the lines of what Nia said. If this is a building lot, it's a building lot, and we're being asked to approve a building for this lot. I want to also say that people quote the guidelines from the HDC as though they came down from God and they can't be moved or changed, and that they are hard facts. They're guidelines. We can move around within the guidelines, make changes if we want to. We use those as guidance, not as absolutely written facts. So I think there's some misunderstanding about what guidelines really are. And it allows us, and it's been very, very helpful, to have some leeway in making decisions with guidance from those guidelines that we've been given. So and so I think that there has never been, I think, a clear understanding of what those guidelines really mean. But I think this has come a long ways. I think it has a ways to go. And I think that it needs to come down in size because we said it had to at the last meeting. And I think that's where we need to go.
To both Dennis and Nia's concerned, I'd be more than happy to eliminate that bathroom on the first floor. So that wouldn't be called a bedroom anymore. If you makes you more comfortable. But I would argue this is one of the smallest new construction houses square footage wise built in Concord in the last 5 to 10 years.
No.
We cannot go any smaller square footage. We need to be in the mid 3,000 square feet. And I don't think 34, you can't even tell 34 to 37 there's not much difference at all. And the other ones, one was 38, one was 34, but they still had the 400. So what I really presented, the other ones are 42 and 38, and now I'm at 37. So we have moved in the right direction.
Any other comments, Dennis?
That's the end of my comments.
Okay, Kate, you want to go ahead?
Sure. There's not much more for me to expand on that Nia covered. I am also interested in square footage, and square footage does matter. And on the one hand, we, as Nia stated, our job is for HDC is to work with a lot on which something can be built. Our job, however, is not to try to maximize someone's economic impact from a lot in the historic district. For those who live in historic districts, it's hard enough to live in an old house, let alone deal with all the stuff that goes with that historic district. And that's really more, the consideration here for me than for worrying about, you say it has to be in the 3,000, mid 3,000s. I know that's so you can sell it, and that's understandable, but that's really not part of our consideration at all, or it certainly shouldn't be, marketability of the house. But I appreciate that you have reduced the size of the garage, and while I don't like any garage looking at Lowell Road, particularly this intersection is one of our most significant in all of our properties. So it's an improvement. I appreciate what you've done so far, but I'm still not quite there. Thank you.
Okay, Catherine.
Yes, so in adding to what my fellow commissioners have already said, I unfortunately do not actually, I'm not entirely happy with the shift from the Queen Anne style farmhouse to the Cape. I actually think this, for me, feels less in keeping with the other properties adjacent. And I also feel like it feels a little more contemporary in nature to me overall. Again, I do agree with my fellow commissioners in terms of I appreciate all the efforts done to reduce the overall size, especially in terms of the visible sight lines from key points on Lowell Road in particular. However, I'm with Paul in terms of thinking that, you know, maybe a shift to having the garage be back in its original position or closer to its original position from the previous iteration of the design, and doing something like a pea stone or a chip stone or some kind of surface driveway that is not you know, a paved driveway or tarmac style driveway would maybe be worth considering. But again, I do appreciate all the efforts made in terms of the design process. And, you know, I think this is a tricky thing. And I think Paul too mentioned sort of, you know, differing goals and values here. So, you know, that's what we're up against in terms of trying to find a compromise. So thank you.
Okay, what about Abigail?
So my fellow commissioners have offered a pretty comprehensive overview, but I would say, one, I think the feedback collectively that you're hearing is that the garage remains problematic in its current placement and design. That there's an improvement in that it's smaller, it doesn't have living space above it, so the massing has been reduced, but there's still concerns about its location and frankly its existence. So, you know, our guidelines do say that garages in any form may not be appropriate on certain lots. This might be a case where this is one. I would suggest it could be helpful, and luckily you're working with Elise, who's terrific, to see iterations of the site plan and the renderings that have this garage, the smaller scale without the living space, its current location next to the house and behind the house. As we discussed, our guidelines are really guardrails. They kind of give us a general road to follow. But it may be in this case that it's a trade-off between a longer, more narrow chip sealed driveway to a garage that's in the rear of the property might be preferable to a smaller, shorter driveway with a garage in front. So considering alternative placements, I think would be helpful if your hope is to preserve a garage on the property. I'm not convinced at this point yet that a garage, given the shape of this lot, is appropriate, that you can put it in a place where I would consider it appropriate per our guidelines. I think the house, I think there's an improvement in obviously bringing the house farther away from the lot lines and the setbacks. I would be interested to see the house. How much further can you push the house back in it if there wasn't a garage behind it and you weren't concerned about driveway length?
How far can we push this plan back?
Yeah,
We could keep pushing it back. At this plan in general, yeah.
yeah, I mean, that's my question, you know, we talk about, you know, having the house recede more, having the massing be less of a concern. Obviously, massing from the road, the further the house goes back, that could ameliorate some of the concerns there.
Yeah, no, it's a good suggestion. That can be pushed back quite a bit. You know, as we push back, we get closer to the right-hand setback, but the
Yep.
left-hand setback will hold, but we can also pull it right tight to the left hand first. and
Yeah, I
then
mean, I
push
think
it
it's
back.
worth, I think generally what we're saying is that, you know, we appreciate the effort and the flexibility, that it's certainly, we're working in a collaborative effort, which I appreciate. And I think if this is the design that you want to move forward with, in my opinion, the best course of action would be to reconsider garage and placement, play with where the structure can sit on the lot. But there are just some basic limitations given the shape and the size of the lot that influences what I would deem, and I think my fellow commissioners would deem appropriate. And so it may be, and I agree with those that have said a further reduction in size. You know, in terms of what happens within the structure, that's not really our purview. You could have 1 bedroom and 12 bathrooms and we don't care. And you could have 12 bedrooms and 1 bathroom and it's not really any of our business. It's the exterior of the structure that we care about. But obviously what the interior program affects the exterior. We understand that. But those would be my general suggestions if you want to continue to move forward with the project, would be to reconsider placement of the garage, present options with it both next to and behind and eliminate it entirely. And think about placement of the primary structure on the lot itself. So that's about as much kind of helpful guidance I can add tonight. But I do think whatever plan you look to move forward with or represent, to have it staked out again in an additional site visit is something that I probably think we would ask for. So just in the planning process.
Sure, I understand that. Yeah, when you say a new placement in the garage, does that count as in moving it back?
Yeah, so in terms of, so I would look at, I would explore.
So if you're looking at
this
this
is my
site,
plan, I would explore the options of shifting the entire thing back with the current placement of the garage in the front of the structure. I would
so
look
if you
at
look, this will get, if we're all looking at that site plan, this will give you a perspective. I can push this house all the way back to that checked line.
Yep.
The front of the garage, we need to be 120 feet wide at the front of the house due to zoning. And that's that check line. So we can move this garage all the way to that, just the front of the garage is there. So I can move this, everything here, probably move back 30 feet.
Yep.
Back into there and, you know, just have to juggle that septic system.
I mean, I think that's worth considering. I think it's worth considering moving the smaller structure behind and to the side and eliminating it. Those are the 4 options that I see in terms of garage with this house and that garage configuration. So I would explore those 4 options and see what you would think reduces the effective massing, what screens the garage the most, and what kind of addresses some of the other concerns that the commissioners have raised. That's where I see room for movement here, in addition to reducing the size of the primary structure. So.
Yeah, no, I appreciate your comments. I think you have a good idea in pushing it back. I think, you know, without a lease here and you know, I know a little bit about everything, so I'm kind of dangerous, but we're putting the garage in the back all the way back there. I think we'd just be doing a radical new design.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why it's worth taking this back to Elise and with our feedback.
Right. But I think you're right. Your thoughts of pushing this all the way back. I mean, you're a long way back from Lowell Road. At that point, we're 120 feet plus the roughly 10 to 15 to actually the physical road. We're 135 feet back from Lowell Road. It's a long way.
Yeah, I think just considering as many options as possible gives this a shot of moving forward, because I think the current configuration is not approvable in my mind right now. So if you want to continue tweaking it, I see that as areas where you have some options.
Right. Well, so far, I think the common theme is this garage. I'm thinking everybody's somewhat comfortable with the house, and I know there's concerns of the square footage, but it seems like the garage is is a sticking point.
I'm done, Luis, so you can move on to, I think, Melinda.
Okay,
is left.
thank you, Abigail. Melinda.
I was actually very pleasantly surprised when I looked at the new plans today. I like the design of the front of the house with it starting as a cape. But I really couldn't figure out why you would put the garage in the front. Because nobody likes a garage in any street, let alone the historic district, in the front of the house. It's just ugly, it blocks everything. I have no problem with the distance from the street right now. And I just think you should move the garage to the back of the house. Where you might have moved the whole house back, I would just put the garage back there. I would make a rustic looking driveway, and I think it would be very attractive. I don't think it's going to look too large if the garage is in the back. I understand that by taking 400 feet out of the second floor of the garage, that you feel that you made a big adjustment to the square footage on this. And maybe your fifth bedroom would going to be an office that would have been in the garage. I don't know, but it isn't really smaller at the end of the day, obviously. You could probably go a little bit narrower in the front and all the bedrooms and so forth. But the garage in the front of the house, to me, is the major flaw. And I think you can hide it. And I think if you have a driveway that looks like a gravel driveway, even if it's not a true driveway, rather gravel driveway, that it will be a great asset to any buyer. And but overall, I think you've made a lot of changes that I really like.
Thank you. I wish Elise was here to hear that.
Thank you, Melinda. I will make comments as short as possible. I commend the architect and the developer for producing a structure and a plan that it's a vast improvement over the previous ones we've seen. The issues that I see is that I don't believe that the structure as presented as design contributes to the historic character of the site. And in that sense, I take a slight different pathway from my fellow commissioners, in the sense that I don't have any particular point in terms of a garage or a guest bedroom or study or a bathroom, etc. I see the whole structure, and I don't believe that this structure has contributes to, and I'm going to be verbatim from the purposes of the Historic District Commission, to the preservation and protection of buildings, places, and districts of historic or literary significance through the development and maintenance of appropriate settings for said buildings, places, and districts, and through the maintenance of said buildings. So I don't believe that this structure does any of that. And from my perspective, that is our role, to see if we can assure that the historic character of the city of Concord is preserved. And I don't believe that this structure actually does that. On the other hand, I have to say that this is a very, very competent plan and a very, very competent project, that if it was in just about any other place, it would be an outstanding contribution to the landscape and to the urban identity of the place where it is. But in a place like Hiller's Corner, with implications that it has, and we are hearing the economic pressures and necessities that are being implied, and I don't think that this structure works, and that's the reason that I don't think that I would be able to go along with it. That's my comment.
should we
Okay,
do
so should we open
public
the
comment?
discussion to the public? Anybody there? Any public comments?
Martin has his hand raised.
Thank you, Heather. Martin Lueck, 8 Barrett's Mill Road. I am one of the 4 houses on Hildreth Corner, and I just want to emphasize some of the comments that we've already heard from the commission, that this revised plan is still significant in size and scale, and it is visually would dominate the lot, and it's not in keeping with that tiny little lot that is just jammed in next to all of the historical homes. And I'll remind everyone that at the last meeting, I think the suggestion was that the property needed, or the building should be a half to a third the size of that proposal. So that's what I had hoped to see in the revised plan. I would just add that this is a new build, and as Luis has reminded us, the opportunity for the historic district to maintain the appropriateness of this property must be paramount. So the economic requirements of it surely have to be secondary. And to say that it needs to be a smaller house, and to say possibly that a garage is not appropriate for this place should be considerations. And there you go. I think that is what we're looking at, and I strongly feel that, you know, I think it's inappropriate for the historic district to have this garage this close to the lot, and to have a structure of that size jammed in with the other more pastoral spread out buildings. And those are my comments. Thank you for listening.
Thanks very much. Any other public comment?
She's been here, but she's not saying it.
Richard is raising his hand.
Oh, God, here he goes.
Can you
Hi.
mute them?
Hi, it's actually Erica Santoro, the abutter next door at 625 Lowell Road. I just wanted to mention that I actually don't think that the developer listened to the community and the HDC concerns, because I think the consensus among many in the community and with the HDC was that the structure, that any structure built should be approximately a third to half of those proposed by the developer. So closer to 2,000 square feet. So this structure in this plan is longer than the first, almost the same width. And at 3,800 square feet, I don't see how it's smaller. Because we live here and we know it so well, I can guarantee, especially certain months out of the year, you will see the entire structure from the 4 corners, from Barrett's Mill and Lowell Road, from all areas of this historic corner. And you know, this plan where the driveway is, all of those old maples will die. And I just want to add, I just think it needs to be smaller, much smaller, or outside of the historic district.
Thanks very much. Any other public comments? Okay, so I want to ask the applicant what course of action he would like to take, because one of the options is that we continue the application, which would be for the 3rd or the 4th time, which is rather unusual. The other option is that the application be withdrawn and a new application be submitted at a later time. Or the third option is that the application be put up for a vote. But I believe that the commissioners have expressed some very valid points that need to be taken into account. So it would not be entirely consistent to have a favorable opinion about the applications as it stands right now. So, Mike, what do you think you want to do? You are muted.
Am I on? Yep.
Now you're on.
Yeah, so I guess there's two big topics here, the garage, obviously, and then a lot of talk about the square footage. I can work with the garage. I think, I'll get back with the lease and see what we can figure out about whether moving it to the back or designing it differently just so it doesn't look like a garage. The square footage I'm not moving on the square footage. This home, whatever we build there is going to be in the mid 3,500 to 3,900 square foot range. A third or half is just not going to happen. A 2,000 square foot house hasn't been built in Concord in 30 years. It's not going to be built there. If the board, I guess I would, Peter did the straw votes. If this is a broad question, if the board can't wrap their arms around a house, it's 3,600 or 3,700 square feet, and that roughly that range, we're all wasting our time, and we need to just vote. This is a lesson in futility for everybody. I can work with the garage. I think we could get to a happy place with the garage with your comments, but the square footage it's not going to happen. I think we've done a long way to work with the mass. That's why I was reluctant to answer the square footage question. They're two separate subjects. My mass compared to my abutters is significantly smaller. You bring their bonds into place. And the concerns about seeing over there, their mass blocks my house. So I guess I would ask, what I would ask here in a straw vote, Louis, can the board wrap their arms around a house that's roughly 3,700, 3,800 square feet? And if the answer is no, then we'll just go to vote here, and I'll just keep proceeding with as your regulations are written.
Well, if I may express an observation on the statements that you just made, I think that you are misinterpreting what's the purpose of the Historic Districts Commission, because the Historic Districts Commission doesn't work with a square footage of some kind, and cannot take into account.
I agree. Then why does everybody? I know, but why does everybody keep asking about square footage, Louis?
Well, because what the commissioners want to do is to get an impression or try to rationalize.
You just said they don't work with square footage. You just said we don't work with square footage.
Well, that's what I'm trying to explain to you. We do not work with the square footage. What we work with is the relevance that a structure has to the historic identity of the place. And in order to get to that assessment or to that impression, in order to make up our minds, we ask many questions. We ask things like, what's the square footage? And where's the garage? And what's the nature of the pavement? Because we want to wrap our heads and develop a rationale for why we feel that this structure would contribute to the historic identity of the district, or whether it would not. And that's the reason that I invite you to abandon the idea that we're going against a particular square footage, and in the same token to not consider the idea that a certain square footage or the presence or absence of a garage are points that are not to be discussed because you are not going to adapt to them. I think what the commission is saying is that they don't believe that this house as it stands contributes to the historic identity of the place. Therefore, they are willing to consider other options, and they have made a number of suggestions that they are entirely gratuitous, because we are not really here to design anything or to tell you where to put the garage. What I would like to do right now, it's just before we go to another comment, I want to go around very quickly into the members of the commission to see any one of them wants to make a comment at this point. And then I will go to Mrs. Venus for her to speak. Anybody in the commission that wants to make a comment at this juncture?
Paul does.
Paul.
Yeah, I will say that for me, the simple fact the square footage is not disqualifying. It may be large for the site, but I think there's a way to configure the juxtaposition of the buildings, the garage and the house, that would make that acceptable and not inconsistent with the historic area. But as to the relevance of square footage, for your benefit, Mike, I mean, it helps orient us in terms of the changes you've made. It helps give us a perspective on the specific transition from the first to the second to the third. So I don't think it's an irrelevant question. But to answer your absolute question, for me personally, the mere fact of the square footage is not in and of itself disqualifying. Other things may make it disqualified, but not simply the square footage.
Thank you. I think that's the answer. Those are the answers I'm trying to get from the board. Is the square footage an end all for the board? I appreciate your comments there.
Melinda.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that we made a big deal in the last meeting, actually, that we thought it was too large. And for you to actually go back up in square footage doesn't sound like you were hearing us and considering that we consider that a big deal. You just used the word 3,500 versus 3,800. I consider that a considerable reduction. But you've even used the 3,400. I just don't understand why you would go back up from your second.
I'd be happy to answer that.
Yeah, go ahead.
So trying to, I read all your comments and listened to your comments last time, and massing is a bigger concern. So we concentrated on changing the massing of the house. The massing is significantly less than our last proposal. Now, the square footage, but like I said, unfortunately, I'm not trying to be elusive. I don't have it on the plan. I think it's roughly, I thought I said 3,700 earlier, but we concentrated on changing the massing. Your language in your regulation talks about massing. There's no language in your regulation about square footage, none. So it's massing. Then I asked myself, well, is it massing to next door? That's the only house that's close. And my massing is drastically less than next door. So I didn't concentrate on square footage. I can't get wrapped up into 34, 36, 37, 35. It's negligible. No one can tell the difference. I more work towards massing. And we've made a drastic reduction in massing. But I appreciate your comments, Melinda, but that's my answer to it.
Can we go to Mrs. Venus right now, Heather? I think that it has the whole screen now.
I'm not sure. I thought mass was square footage. So maybe I don't know the definitions you're dealing with, but I don't live in the neighborhood, but I think it's a really significant historic section of Concord. That's why it's in the historic district. I just think the structure is too big for the lot, and it definitely will be detrimental to the historic nature of the corner. And it has to do with the impact on the whole site and the trees, not just the view from Lowell Road. I don't see why the Historic Commission can't require that it be smaller.
Thanks very much. Are there any other comments? Mr. Fanning, Ms. Fanning, I'm sorry.
Thank you. I did a study of what might have been the first plan of the house. And if the garage, I think the configuration of the house was an L shape when the garage had space above it. So if that's the first iteration.
No, that's the second.
Okay. So I did a study of that. If you took the garage and put it at the back of the house, making the house no more than about 30 feet wide, you would be sort of complementing houses at 100 Barrett's Mill Road and 702 Lowell Road, which are narrow houses. You keep the flavor of the character of the face of that house. It is much narrower. It does not, the garage is not at all predominant. And the biggest factor, in my opinion, is that the house can go from where it is currently at 60 feet from Lowell Road to 160 feet from Lowell Road and still work. So it seems to me that by de-emphasizing the base of the house as close to the Lowell Road as 60 feet, we've accomplished a lot. And I come fall and winter, yeah, you may see it from both streets, but what you're seeing is a 29-foot facade. And to me, that's sort of in keeping with a couple of houses in the immediate neighborhood. So I thought perhaps that might be an ameliorating way to approach this. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Well, I think that we have to make a decision. I think that
thanks, Louis. It's back to a straightforward yes or no question in your straw vote. Can your board members accept, we'll call a 3,700 square foot house?
But I don't think that you are formulating the question correctly, because we don't approve 3,700 or 2,100 or 1,400 or any 100 square feet house. We approve something that is relevant to the historic district, and that can be any size. So I don't think that you are framing the question correctly.
Well, if you'd like to help me,
yeah. That we abandon that tack because it's not getting us anywhere.
Well, it is. If the board is looking for a 2,000 square foot house, it's not happening through my process.
Well, the board is not looking, as we have said before, for a 2,000 or any 1,000 square house. The board is looking for a house that it's relevant to the historic significance of the site, which we all agree, which is substantial. And I have read the laws of the historic district, and says that that is exactly the purpose of this commission, to preserve that identity. And when we translate the comments that we have about the proposed structure in terms of footage, it's because I don't believe that we collectively agree that the proposed structure is fulfilling the purposes that the Historic Commission is pursuing, which is to preserve the historic identity and significance of the town. So that's what it's all about. It's not an issue of a square footage. You see, so it should not be framed that way.
I respectfully disagree with you, Louis. It's constant talk of the square footage, constant.
Well, that is correct. You see, and it's in your position, that's exactly what you care. You see, but we are not, as was said before, in pursuit of the economic interests of any given applicant. We're in pursuit of the purposes that I just described a few times. So I don't think that we cannot take that into consideration. You see, so I think that that's very clear. So you are mentioning something about a straw vote. From that perspective, I think that we have two options. Either if you want, we can continue the application. keeping in mind that you have received what I believe is very, very good advice. I want to allow Nancy to make a comment before I continue. Go ahead.
First of all, I'd like to apologize for being late. I was able at the last minute to see the site plan, and I reviewed the floor plans and the sketches of the new proposed structure. and I just want to say that I think that this new structure will be even more prominent than the last one. And I'm sorry if my comment is repeating others. And I'm sorry if it has implications for the square footage, but it might. And I just would encourage the HDC to take that into account. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. So I think that we should wrap up
Louis,
this
I think
issue.
Paul wants to talk.
Sorry?
No, not really. I just think that we should either have the applicant tell us to vote, in which event we will, or tell us to move for a continuance because he'd like to take another crack at this. But I think, we're at this point, we're chasing our own tails here.
That's exactly the point that I was going to pursue, which is that we should wrap this up. And I'm giving the opportunity at this moment for the applicant to ask for a continuance or to withdraw, or whether the applicant wants to have a vote. And it's your option.
Yeah, I feel like I feel like we haven't accomplished much in the square footage conversation, but I can work with the garage. So I guess we'll go for a continuance, and I'll work on the garage concerns.
So I will ask a member of the commission to put a motion to continue the application of 615 Lowell Road to the meeting. You think that the next meeting in 2 weeks is appropriate, or you want to go more?
I'm sorry, was that for me?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, next meeting is fine.
Okay. To the meeting of November 18th.
I move that we continue the application for 615 Lowell Road to our next meeting on November 18th.
Wait, I want to make, hold on.
You want to amend that?
No, I don't want to amend it. Sorry, I was muting myself before. I want to make it clear the applicant is saying he'll work on the garage because he's hearing that as a concern, and that is one, but that is not the only one. There's there may be, we've mentioned other things, particularly with the size, that is still a factor, just so we're clear. I don't want, at a subsequent meeting for the applicant to think, well, you guys just said that, we needed to fiddle with the garage. So I just want to make sure that that is, still remains our right.
Yeah, good point.
Thank you, Kate. No, would anyone to take a crack at defining massing on that board? That's a struggle here.
It's a
Well, we have a motion.
Site is different. It's.
I think
We have a
already
motion on the table.
We have a motion. I'll second the motion.
Okay.
Sorry,
Paul has seconded, then
point of order. Given the motion, I might amend the motion. Does it make sense if there is a revised plan submitted to have a site visit that morning? If we're going to give full consideration to a revised plan, because I know other commissioners had mentioned a site visit, and I don't want to stretch this out for another meeting if we're going to ask for a site visit again.
it's a very reasonable proposition.
Well, it's tough to, I can stake out this plan, but I'd have to stake out the new, what I'm revising to bring in for next plan.
That's my question is for
No,
efficiency's
yeah, I understand. Yeah, I can, whatever we come up with, I can stake it out for the morning of the next meeting.
I think it would make the most sense in terms of efficiency and in hopes of not extending this application for additional meetings would be, if you're continuing to the November 18th meeting, for a site visit to be conducted at 8 a.m. the morning of the 18th, with the understanding that the submitted revised plan for the house and or garage will be staked out at that site visit.
Much appreciated, Abby. It's a very good point. And yes, we can do that.
Okay, so I'm going to ask that Nia confirms her motion to continue the application of 615 Lower Road with the amendments as proposed by Ms. Flanagan, and whether that's the seconding of Mr. Ware is consistent with his desire.
Yes,
Yes.
confirmed by me.
Yes, I'm seconding as revised.
Okay, then I'm gonna go around and ask Nia,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Melinda,
Aye.
Kate,
Aye.
Abigail,
Aye.
Dennis,
Aye.
Catherine. You are muted. You're muted, Catherine. You can raise your hand. And I'm an aye. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mike.
So the next application is 20 Lexington Road in the American Mile Historic District from the First Parish of Concord for a certificate of appropriateness to install signage. This is a sign to commemorate the historic visit of the Marquis de Lafayette to Concord in 1824. This was discussed before. This is a continuance. And we had a site visit this morning where we looked at the site and were graciously greeted by the minister and a member of the parish. You want to present what's the current plan now? Who's presenting?
Howard, are you in the meeting? So I guess it is me, Victor Curran, parishioner at First Parish and volunteer working on this project. I am joined by Julienne Ishet. Julienne, wave your hand there. From the Lafayette Trail. The Lafayette Trail, as I mentioned in our previous meeting, has graciously offered to make a gift to the First Parish in Concord of a marker commemorating the visit of the Marquis de Lafayette to Concord in 1824. At the last meeting, we looked at the sign, we looked at the site, and then members of the commission visited the First Parish property this morning to consider the significance of this historical marker in this place and possible locations that would be appropriate on the First Parish property.
Okay, so I'm just gonna go around and ask Nia about some comments.
Okay, thank you for hosting us this morning. It was very interesting to meet you and look at the possible location. I am not fussed about the location of the sign. I'm afraid, as I expressed last week, I'm very I do not think the sign as proposed is appropriate for our historic district. Typically, historic signage in town is much more understated. I think Dennis had actually submitted, and maybe Heather, you would be kind enough to put up the picture. This is sort of more typically what we see, very understated colors, done in wood with raised lettering. It just sort of blends in. It is not calling itself out. I think that the blue and red, while it may be part of a trail all over the country for Lafayette, I do not think it is in the least bit appropriate for Concord. And I would hate to see us approve that in its current state. Thank you.
Yeah, I realize that this doesn't really answer your point.
Mhm.
But the sign you just showed a picture of, the mill dam sign, that's not wood, it's metal. Like the sign that the Lafayette Trail Organization is offering to give us.
Fair, that I take my comment back then, but I think you get the general idea. I think it's a very different look from what is on the screen, you know, with the metal pole and the bright colors. I just don't think that is appropriate in historic Concord, in the historic district.
Thank you, Nia. Paul?
I'm in total agreement with Nia's comments. The colors troubled me last time. Nothing has changed in that respect. So I would not personally endorse this. But I wasn't at the site visit this morning, but I was there yesterday. Were alternative locations considered? Because I'm not wild about this location, and even less wild if these colors somehow make it through the screen here.
Paul, to answer your question, we did look at, sorry, it's echoing, at other possible locations, but the applicant felt that it needed to be along Lexington Road, and where we had thought it might be more appropriate to the right of the building, sort of over under that tree. I don't know if you remember the visual, that was not acceptable to them. I would far prefer that myself, but I would, you know, I certainly don't love the Lexington Road location, but I could live with that if it was a proper looking sign. But you go ahead with your comments. Paul, you're muted.
In short, I don't like the location. I think it should be to the right of the church building in that grove over there. That's sort of a pathway to the center of town. I think it'd be more appropriate there. And
Agreed.
Probably in many respects more likely to be seen, but also the colors trouble me. So I would not support this sign.
Just to clarify, the First Parish is receiving or is proposed to receive this sign as a gift. This First Parish has absolutely no control over the design, the appearance of the sign. We can accept it as it looks and find an appropriate place for it, but we can't change what it looks like.
Okay.
Right, fair enough.
I understand. Then I feel even more strongly that it should not be where it's proposed.
Thank you, Paul. Melinda?
Well, you know, the old adage, I don't want to look a gift horse in the mouth, but maybe this is an occasion where you make an exception. It seems to be unsatisfactory in everything. That the color scheme is not our color scheme. Even though it's a gift, maybe they could tone down the red and make it better, but I can't understand why they wouldn't say that the placement couldn't be changed. That's not part of the gift. I think most of the commission agrees that it's not in a good location. Can't you be a little more flexible on that?
I think we can. I am a parishioner. I am not a member of the standing committee or the trustees of parish donations. I am not a member of the ministerial staff. I don't get to make that decision. I can communicate that decision to Reverend Dana, who you spoke with this morning.
Okay. Kate?
Oh, hi. I echo the same. It's a lovely idea. I like the concept, and the sign in theory is attractive, but as we all agree, it's the location is not ideal, and the color scheme goes against what we typically have in Concord. I'd love to see it work out somehow, though. But
can I communicate to Reverend Dana that if we were to place it, say, in the area between the Right Tavern and the Mill Dam facing Main Street, that would be acceptable to the Historic Districts Commission?
I mean, that's something.
I heard that location proposed just a moment ago.
Well, why don't we finish polling the members of the commission,
Yes.
and then we can address those issues individually. Why don't you go ahead? Did you finish, Kate?
I did. Typically, don't we do all the comments at once and then the applicant interjects afterwards?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, that we should finish doing all the comments from the commissioners, and I will ask Abigail to go ahead.
I'm not going to approve the sign as designed, given the color scheme. It's not appropriate for the historic district in Concord. I'd be open to changing the location of the sign, but if they're not willing to change the design, then I'm just going to reject the application out of hand.
Okay. Dennis.
I took a picture of the sign on the Mill Dam. There are actually two of those signs. And the sign is those two signs are actually larger than the one that's proposed. And they're quite close together. I think if I'm reading it correctly, but I don't know when it was placed, it might have been there since the 30s. So the cast metal has held up rather well. They're on a similar post. My feeling is if they're willing to have it match the Mill Dam sign and its sort of anonymous colors and color scheme, I'm not so bothered by the location, but I prefer it to be on the other side. I agree with Abby. I'm not going to approve a red and blue sign, but if they're willing to make those changes, I would consider
it. Thank you, Dennis. Catherine.
So I do understand the significance of the coloration of the sign, but I too would not approve this sign. It's just not at all in keeping with the Concord tradition of signage. And I also agree that it's a very interesting historical element, and I love the idea of it, and I think it should be incorporated somehow. But again, both the position and the coloration would have to be altered. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. I will echo the comments of my fellow commissioners. I don't think that the colors are appropriate. And an observation is the fact that the site by itself doesn't have any longer any references to the actual visit of Lafayette. So the sign actually could go anywhere in the general area. In other words, we don't have anything in the background that was there when Lafayette visited, or even in the foreground. So I think that the applicant could have some flexibility in the placement of the sign. And I agree that the colors would have to be changed because they would not be appropriate for the context of all the other signs in Concord. Before the applicant makes any other comments, I wanted to ask for members of the public to make any comments if they do have one. The Lafayette Trail, it's
hello.
Go ahead.
Hi. So I represent the organization that contacted the first parish about the donation. I'm from France, and so I just thought I would give you a quick background and answer a few details that were brought up by some members. So I do this because I feel like our two nations have something in common, that it's a framework that has produced a lot of positive ideals that have contributed globally to improving the human condition. I think Lafayette was a champion of that throughout his life. His visit to Concord in 1824 is extremely relevant. It resuscitated how the town saw itself and its role in the American Revolution as a central. It's a key moment for the history of the town. In my opinion, that justifies a location close to the monument. I think Lafayette is up there for the town. I will say also, Concord is a key site for the beginning of the American Revolution. I'm calling from Yorktown, Virginia, so the other side of the American Revolution, the end. So we're gonna have signs. We have a commitment to, we have a funding to install 175 markers around the country. We have done 55 so far. We have plenty in the works. We're gonna have one at some point in Yorktown here. We're gonna have one hopefully soon in Lexington, Massachusetts. I just think like the picture of the American Revolution would not be complete without Concord being there. So we will have all the other major sites, obviously Lexington and Yorktown. I feel, and you should feel the same as well. Concord is up there in the major sites. Connecting to the markers. The markers are points of entry into that conversation. I think that Concord should be given a point of entry. And connecting with the design question, I can tell you right away, we're not going to change a tiny bit on the design. So it's a take or leave situation, unfortunately. The reason is we have an agreement with the foundry, and the foundry basically were able to get a lower price, which makes us able to donate the sign to people. And so this the design is everywhere the same. So the logo, the 5 layers of text, the limited characters, so people read the sign. We already rewrote the text at your recommendation, and I'm also open to changing the location. Unfortunately, we do not have any flexibility on the design, so it's just going to be very simple. It's to what extent you will prioritize being part of a national conversation and representing Concord in it, or basically refuse the application because of the design. So that's a question that we bring up all the time. I talk to historic commissions around the country. Most of them finally agree to the sign. So that's just the situation, whether or not you agree, but I'm not going to be able to change because otherwise I would lose the price at which I would order the sign. So that's all. Those are my comments, and thank you for considering this request, and thank you for coming to the site with Reverend Dana and Victor Curran, which I thank both for their willingness to step up for Lafayette's legacy here in this case. Thank you very much.
Thanks for your comments. Any other public comments? Well, in the absence of public comments, I would have to bring this application for a vote.
May I?
would like, sorry, go ahead. I apologize. I didn't take it.
I just wanted to answer the question about anything at the site having been present when Lafayette visited, and the Wright Tavern, built in 1747, was present at the time of Lafayette's visit in 1824, and that's on the First Parish property.
Yeah, so I stand corrected. My comment was more general in the sense that where the sign is proposed to be, where the background is the actual church, which actually wasn't there. But there's no question that the event is very worthy of celebration. The only problem that we're running here is in the aesthetics of the commemorative symbol, not the spirit of it.
I understand. I replied with the information I have that we unfortunately do not have any flexibility, and it's a choice every town has to make, design versus significance of the event. So the trail is building a national conversation, international, I should say. So it's the question or not whether you are willing to accept the design and join that conversation or shut it down because of the design itself. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I would not formulate it in those terms. You see, I think that we are more than willing, and we have a track record of actually engaging in the conversation of the history of the United States, especially when the whole thing started here. But on the other hand, we have certain requirements, and from my opinion, is that we probably can work around, and the Lafayette Trail can work around the requirements that we're stating very clearly. You want to make a comment, Paul? Did you raise your hand?
Yeah, I didn't mean to do that. I just think we should move the question and deal with this.
That's right. I'm going to ask for a motion to either continue approve or disapprove the application of the First Parish of Concord for signage.
I move that we approve the certificate of appropriateness to install signage at 20 Lexington Road as requested by the applicant.
Okay. Is any seconds?
Second.
Okay, Nia.
Oh, you're
No,
muted.
sorry, no.
Paul,
No.
Melinda,
No.
Kate,
Sadly, no.
Abigail,
No.
Catherine,
No.
and I have to be a no myself. So thank you very much, and hopefully we will see you again with a sign that would have a favorable approval by this commission. Thank you so very much.
Have a great evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we should now go to 201 Lexington Road, a certificate of appropriateness to construct a fieldstone wall granite posts, reconstruct the front path by regrading and adding steps, remove pavement in front of the barn and replace with coldstone parking strips, construct walls, pathways, wall steps, pathways and patio, and construct a plunge pool with lighting and sport court. Who is presenting?
Great. This is Dean Atkins at 201 Lexington. So first of all, I just wanted to say thank you all that are on the board. It's not lost on us that we live in this great historic town because of folks like you that are willing to donate your time, and we appreciate it. I'm happy to answer any questions about the project. I don't know if it's helpful to show some of the pictures. I think just to be clear, and I think maybe Heather, I don't know if you're showing probably the first. We can start with this picture, but it might be helpful just to see the site plan first, just to get a sense of scope that we're looking at. So if you're looking at the site plan here, Lexington Road is on front. And for those of you that know 201 Lexington, it looks out on the Concord Museum there. The house was built in 1688, so it has a great history to it. Indeed, there's some claims that Thoreau may have taken his first steps in the household when it was owned by his grandmother. The plan is to, in the very front there, put a field stone wall that would be consistent with other fieldstone walls on Lexington. Indeed, to the left there's a fieldstone wall that our neighbors have, and there is a white fencing on the right there. So it would keep continuity with what is already present on the street. The second proposed change is the driveway is paved black asphalt. There is a barn, and thank you, Heather. Yeah, that is that where that box is leading up to. The idea is to take out the asphalt there and put in reclaimed cobblestone there, and paint and also to grow grass. This will look similar, and Robert Young is on this Zoom as well, and Gail Alden, who did the Concord Grape House down the street. So if you're looking for examples, that's a similar example. On the side of the house here, there's a lot of trouble with drainage along there, and there's old concrete steps that lead down to the house, which are fairly dangerous and which my mom has tripped on a couple of times. So she is the motivation behind some of this change. And the idea is to sort of build a sort of gradual gradation and put bushes out in front of the cars there to sort of block the view of the cars that are parked there and create a gradual incline into the house. After that, you'll see a patio that's up there, and that is intended to be a bluestone patio. There is an existing patio there that is brick, and this is just a slight expansion of that patio. And then in the back of the house there, we are proposing, which should be out of sight from the road, what is known as a soak pool. It's a very it's a smaller than any kind of swimming pool, and it's about 5 feet deep. It's a 13x7 stone in-ground soak pool that we are requesting the Commission's insight on. I don't think that you can see it from the street, so we can certainly talk about that. And then we are also contemplating and wanted to understand the Historical Commission's opinions on behind the barn. So certainly not within eyesight of any of the road. The barn there is 2 stories, 3 stories with an attic, putting in a basketball hoop and what we call sports court back there for the kids to play basketball, so that we wouldn't add any basketball hoops or anything else to the front driveway, and it wouldn't be visible to the road. I'm happy to sort of go back to the front and give some visuals just to give a sense on what this looks like. I'd say the stone wall here probably is not a great representation of it. It will be a field stone dry laid wall consistent with similar walls that were built during the time period. The next visual, just going up, gives an example. If you see the plantings along where the cars are, the idea there is just to keep our cars from being the first thing that people see when they look up at the house. And that's just another visual of it. The visual here is of the stone cobblestone walkway up to the barn, and in that currently where the cobblestone is there is black paving right now. And then if you go down one more, this would be the expansion of the patio, and the idea is to take out and just remove the really steep stairwell, and we need to deal with the drainage issues along the house. There's a ton of water that's been gathering there and going into the house, and so the idea is just to clean this up, but keep that out of sight from the road as well. I can take a pause there to see if there are any questions or thoughts that people would like me to elaborate on.
Let's go around and ask Catherine to start the commentaries.
Sure. I mean, basically, in essence, I think the plan looks good. It's nice to see that there's been significant thought and sensitivity towards the fieldstone wall, that it's going to be consistent and in keeping with what's around the neighborhood. I also like the grasses that are going to obscure where the cars are going to be parked. So I mean, overall, it looks like a very nice plan to me. I don't have any further comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. I just want to make a quick point of information that there is no question that we all collectively are going to want to have a site visit. So I suggest that we put our comments within the context that there will be a site visit to this property, to what seems to be a very good project. Dennis, you want to go ahead?
I think since we're having a site visit, since we're, whoops, am I muted? No? I'm fine. I think since we're having a site visit, I don't have a lot of comments. The only thing I was curious about is that where the plunge pool is that a wall? There's sort of a border. Is there a wall there off the side of the back terrace?
No, so I think what the dark line right below the plunge pool, that's a screen porch where it exists, and that would just be a bluestone patio around where the plunge pool is.
And you're saying you're not going to see it because it's behind the house, and
exactly
none of the sight lines will cover it.
Yeah, and it's probably helpful on the site visit. You can see it from the road, and we could stake it out for you so you could see where it would be, if that's helpful.
Right. Great. I'll wait for further comments until after the site visit.
Thank you, Dennis. Abigail.
Yeah, I have no comments at the time. Looking forward to the site visit, but there's no red flags for me at this time. So looking forward to it.
Thank you, Abby. Kate?
Abigail took the words right out of my mouth.
Thank you, Kate. Melinda?
I like everything I've seen on this plan, so I look forward to the site visit in 2 weeks.
Okay, thank you so much. Paul?
No comments on this.
Thank you, Paul. Nia?
Ditto.
Ditto. I will make just one comment, which is that this is a great project, and one of the issues that I foresee is the textures of the materials that are going to be used. So if we can have samples as much as possible of what particular type of stone and what particular finishes are going to be available for the site visit, that will be very helpful. And I don't have any comments, except that I look forward to the site visit. Any public comments now? Okay, so I would like to hear a motion to continue this application and for site visit.
I move that we continue the application for 201 Lexington Road to our next meeting on November 18th with a site visit scheduled for 8:30 that morning.
Second.
Thank you, Nia.
Second.
Okay, so I'm gonna go around. Nia?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Melinda?
Aye.
Kate?
Aye.
Abigail?
Aye.
Dennis?
Aye.
Catherine?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. So we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Let me know what you take in your coffee, and there's some pictures of the different materials. I just wanted to let you know that are in the back. We try to take pictures of each of the stones, but I'll talk with Robert about also having examples on site as well, so you have that information. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Now we're going to go ahead and proceed to discuss 71 Lowell Road in the Main Street Historic District for a certificate of providence to renovate the existing retail building with new exterior envelope, new storefront entries, roof overhangs, a new metal roof, new chimney, new deck, trellis, pergola, outdoor fireplace, and masonry, acoustic wall, new walkways, sideways stairs, steps, and ramps, new exterior lighting, enlarged dumpster enclosure, new on-site and on-street parking spaces, relocated transformer, and other associated landscape changes. Now, I have to let the commission know that there's an unresolved potential violation in this property. Section 1.3 of the Historic Districts Commission Rules and Regulations states that no new certificates will be issued when there is an outstanding violation of the property. The particular article states that the staff will review the property files for all new applications prior to scheduling a hearing if our property has unresolved HTC violations from either prior non-conforming work or prior work performed without review. The commission will not consider a new application unless that application also proposes a resolution for the outstanding violations. No new certificates will be issued until a resolution is reached regarding the outstanding violation. Therefore, the way that we have interpreted these rules is that we can discuss this application, but we will not be able to take a vote or issue a certificate. So the options for the applicant are to continue the application to the next meeting of November 18, or discuss the application tonight without taking a vote. And we expect that in the next 2 weeks, the issue of the potential violation has been resolved. Having said all that, I want to express my gratitude to Tom Kearns and of DSK for one of the best site visits that we had this morning. And I can mention to the rest of the commission that it's a very interesting project. But again, we are now restricted by these rules. So again, we can discuss the application, but we won't be able to take a vote or move it any further. You want to go ahead, Tom, and present, or maybe?
Thank you, Luis. Thanks so much. I'm joined here by not only my team members, but Jim White, the owner, is here. And I think, Jim, you'd like to say a few words?
I would, just on the point you made. The application before you is by a military CKJB LLC. The sculptures are on property owned by Millbrook Terry Condominium, which installed them, so that the applicant has no relationship to the ownership or installation of the sculptures. So that I believe your rules are not applicable in this case, and that you can and should go ahead with the hearing tonight.
Yeah, so Mr. Chair, we believe that these two issues cannot be paired, and therefore we hope to present this evening, and we would hope to move to a vote.
I'm gonna go out of order and ask Paul to make a comment.
Yeah, when you say no relationship, do you mean no legal relationship and no practical or personal relationship, or do you mean just no legal relationship?
Well, I don't know. I'm sorry. There is no legal relationship between the two of them. Obviously, the people involved are similar, but that is sort of irrelevant.
Oops. Paul, you're muted.
Paul, you're still muted.
When you say the people are similar, what does that mean? Are the individuals involved the same or identical to or related to the applicant as to whom this comment is made?
Well, there's lots of entities there, so it's hard to answer that simply. But let me point out that Millbrook Terry Condominium Association, which is responsible for the sculptures, yeah, I own a number of units, but there are 3 other individuals also involved who have no relationship to anything except their ownership in the condominium. So they're totally irrelevant to the whole thing. But they do have an interest in the condominium.
Heather, sorry, Heather's raising her hand.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so the rules and regulations state that it's the property. It doesn't matter who the applicant was. The statues are located on the same property as what the application we're reviewing tonight is. So I believe it's still applicable.
Would you please read to me where it says that?
Luis read it at the beginning of the meeting.
I'd like to hear,
Again.
sorry, if you wouldn't mind, because you raised it, could that particular language be read back?
Yeah, I can share my screen real quick and bring it up. It's right here. Staff will review the property files for all new applications prior to scheduling a hearing. If a property has unresolved HDC violations from either prior non-conforming work or prior work performed without review, the commission will not consider a new application unless the application has also proposes a resolution for the outstanding violations. No new certificates will be issued until a resolution is reached regarding the outstanding violations. There's no mention of who submits the application. It's just the property.
Well, the property before you was the building. The applicant owns the building. It doesn't own the property.
Well, isn't the building part of the property?
I'm sorry?
Isn't the building part of the property?
Is the building is
Isn't the building
separate?
included in the property?
Condominium units are separate from the real estate underneath.
Yeah. I think we should not consider this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm inclined to make a motion to either reject the application out of hand right now or continue it to the next meeting. I'm not going to do this tonight.
Yeah, me
You
neither.
know, we've been at this for 2 hours. I'm not going to get into a legal discussion and battle about what is or is not the condo owner versus the property and all of that. I'll make a motion to deny the application, or I'll make it to continue it, but I'm not going to go down this road tonight.
Well, if I may, we've had, I mean, the chair, Peter Noble, sent us an email at 3:30 this afternoon. So we've had a couple of hours to try to respond to that. So it hasn't been a lot of time. We're kind of doing our best to.
No, Tom, Andy, Dylan, you guys gave us one of the most comprehensive and helpful and informative site visits we have had in my tenure this morning. It was
Agreed.
excellent. It put us in a position to really consider this application thoroughly tonight. I felt really confident that you guys have done a great job. From the visuals to the walkthrough, it was excellent. My comments have nothing to do with your efforts tonight or the design submitted. It has to do with this nonsense about violations and the legal ownership and all of that. I'm just not going to get into that tonight.
Well, I don't think it's nonsense, but I'll be happy to withdraw the comments for the moment. I would like you to proceed with whatever discussion you would have otherwise, and you've heard what I had to say about it, but that's it. No more than that.
This was brought up at the last meeting 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, that is correct. It absolutely.
You
was.
didn't just find out this afternoon.
Yeah, why is it so hard, Jim? Why is it so hard to get an application for 2 pieces of sculpture? I don't know what the holdup is.
Oh, listen, I will be glad to file an application.
Wow.
I don't, I point out from a technical point of view what I pointed out, but I will be glad to file an application.
That's all it takes, and I don't think it's going to be a big deal.
Fine. Well, consider an application. Can't do it tonight, but it will be filed.
Good.
Well,
Well, I don't know if we should add any members of the commission that want to make any further comments.
it's still a violation, and it was a violation at our last meeting.
Yeah, I think that's the point. It's a violation. And I think Heather is absolutely correct. The issue is with respect to the property. So I think we should not consider this.
I agree with Paul. I think it makes sense. We continue the application. It gives you time to file an application for the sculptures and to remedy the violation. And then we can proceed as normal and with, what I think will be a comprehensive and productive conversation about the application. I don't have an issue, as I said, with this application. I have an issue with the violations, and I think we continue this until those are resolved.
Oh, that's fine.
I'm going to ask any members of the commission. Let me finish. Any members of the commission to add any comments. For those who have not made any comments, this is the opportunity to do so. So just please raise your hand in the interest of time. Okay, now you want to go? You want to go ahead? You were going to make a comment, Mr. White.
Well, go ahead, Tom.
Well, so a lot of effort has gone into the preparation of the presentation this evening. As you all may suspect, I would like to present, if at all possible, because we are presenting on the heels of what I thought was a very good site visit this morning. And I think if we disconnect those things, we're at some disadvantage. I think we all in a number of commission members invested time this morning in what I thought was a very good site visit and well prepared with very, very thoughtful questions. So a presentation this evening was, we thought, part 2 of that. And so we obviously will follow the direction of the commission, but we are certainly prepared to make this presentation. We think it coupled with this morning's effort is important.
Well, I would say that your presentation was outstanding, and the whole project, I believe that it's of high quality. But this is an entirely different issue, and it's actually quite unfair that the design and creative process has to be harmed by this other issue. But this issue is very clear cut, and I think that most people in the commission have expressed their views.
May I?
I personally don't think that your presentation will be diminished by not discussing it the same night. Go ahead.
Very respectfully, may I just ask a question about, you said that this is very clear cut. So to my knowledge, in terms of the materials that have been shared with me, there has been a suggestion, let's say, or I would say as much as an informal request that an application may be made. There has been no official letter stating anything. We're using the word violation. I have not seen that. I have not seen anything that states that there's a violation. I have seen the suggestion that an application is being requested, but there is not a letter of non-compliance or violation that I have seen. So I think we're using language in a public forum here, but I wonder if, Mr. Chair, we could just be very specific about that language, because I don't think it is quite as clear.
Well, the specific language is that the violation does not occur when it is identified and a complaint letter is submitted to the presumed violator. The violation occurs the moment that the violation takes place. So that's one of the technical aspects. The second one is that claiming ignorance about this issue, it's not an accurate proposition, because back in September, the applicant was made aware that there was an issue on this application, and he has access to exactly the same regulations that we have. And he certainly had all the opportunity to address this issue, which would have been done in a very productive and constructive way. And we would not have to be in this situation that it's as deplorable to you as it is deplorable to us, because
yes,
we just want to go ahead and see a good project go ahead.
Absolutely. I want nothing more than that. To my understanding is that the applicant initiated this.
Well, do any of the commissioners have any other comments? I have heard a number of very clear-cut comments saying that this cannot proceed. The only options that we would have, as far as we have interpreted the regulations, is that we can discuss it, but we will not be making any motions or any recommendations. So it's up to us to decide whether we're going to discuss the application without putting it for a vote, or whether we will ask the applicant to address the issues that have been mentioned and postpone the discussion to a different time.
I think we have to postpone the discussion till the violation's been dealt with, right? I mean, we can't move on any discussion. So we've got a long night. We've already been debating this point for 15 minutes.
Okay, then Then I would like to ask for a motion to continue this application.
We do need to take public
Go
comment
ahead, Heather.
if there's any. We do need to take public comment if there's any before
Yeah.
continuing.
Any public comments? Well, it doesn't seem that there are any public comments. So if I can have a motion to continue this application for the next meeting of November 18th, which will give the applicant the time to resolve the issues that have been brought up.
I will reluctantly do so. I move that we continue the application for 71 Lowell Road to our, excuse me, to our next meeting on November 18th.
Second.
Okay, I'm gonna go around. Catherine,
Aye.
Dennis,
Aye.
Abigail,
Aye.
Kate,
Aye.
Melinda,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Nia,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. Okay, so we hope to see this issue resolved by the next 2 weeks. And we are looking forward to reviewing and discussing the application of 71 Lowell Road.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If I may just ask for clarification, are we suggesting that this may be resolved over the next 2 weeks as an administrative matter?
It's going to be up to the applicant. See, it's not really up to us.
Okay.
In the sense that I'm sure the applicant can, you see, we certainly will work cooperatively and collaboratively if there's anything that it's in our purview. But, you know, we're just following very specific guidelines. So we're sort of, our hands are tied.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll get it done.
Okay, let's see, I lost my place. The next application is a new public hearing. It's 82 Walden Street, a certificate of appropriateness to repaint the front door. Is Ms. Thurston here?
Yes, we're here.
Oh, good. You want to go ahead and tell us what's the plan?
We simply want to change the color of our front door from the white, which seems to get dirty with the location close to the street, to the historic color of Jamestown blue that I submitted the chip for. It's a driftwood gray exterior with the white shutters, and we thought the blue would be appropriate color for a door.
Very good. I'll go around. Nia, you want to make any comments?
Yes, you're an angel to have sat through all of this for a door. And I think it would be absolutely lovely. So I'm all in favor.
Thank you.
Paul?
No comments.
Melinda?
I think it'll be great.
Kate?
Jamestown blue is a lovely color.
Abigail?
No objection.
Dennis?
Go for it.
Catherine?
It'll be perfect.
And myself, I think looks pretty good. Any public comments? In the absence of public comments, I will ask for a motion to approve the application of 82 Walden Street to paint the wall, the door.
I move that we approve the application for 82 Walden Street to repaint the front door Jamestown blue.
Second.
Second.
Okay, Catherine?
Aye.
Dennis?
Aye.
Abigail?
Aye.
Kate,
Aye.
Melinda,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. So congratulations.
So am I.
Thanks for your
We need more of
patience.
these applications.
Oh, my God.
Okay, we go to a new application, which is 32 Main Street. A certificate of appropriateness to install signage. Is one blade sign and one flat wall sign for the Three Stones Gallery in Main Street, in 32 Main Street. Is the applicant here? Mr. Crosby. Okay. Looks like you're muted.
I'm mute. How's that? Can
Okay.
you hear me? Can you hear me now?
If you want to make a quick presentation of what's the plan and the features of the proposed sign.
Yes, I wanted to know what on the blue door, what the sheen was. I'm just kidding. So it's a blade sign and a flat wall sign for Three Stones Gallery. It's a new design for them. It would be the same size as the original Winston Flowers sign for the flat wall sign that was. The halo's kind of still there on the wall. And the blade sign is a 23 1/4 by 27 inch tall, which is in between the size of the other two blade signs there, even though it's a slightly different, it's a little more square, I think, but it's basically a balance between those three shapes. And it's basically just black and white with a satin finish on the background and a semi-gloss finish on the letters. And the sign is 2 inches thick, and the blade sign is the same thickness as the Goldsmith sign. They would love to know if it would be appropriate to ask for, they haven't decided on, I could probably pull the trigger for it tonight, but I told them the options would be either hand painting the lettering of it, raised letters, or carved letters and raised stones. But they, from a quoting standpoint, they haven't picked, they wanted to know what their choices were. And I said I would ask for permission for all of those other than flat, like vinyl letters. So it would either be hand painted or carved or raised. So those are kind of the three styles that we do a lot that usually are accepted. So, and if not, I could probably suggest that we raise the stones and carve the letters if that was more, if people had any feelings or comments towards that. So that's about it.
Okay, any comments from the commission? Let's start with Nia.
Really, first of all, we were so delirious. I can't believe we missed the finish on the door. We've got to go back to that applicant, get that sorted out. Thank you.
Yeah, I know.
I'm sorry. It's been a long night. We are just losing it.
Especially between satin and eggshell. I'm really fussy about that.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I mean, you
There's
should
a
have spoken.
difference.
Why didn't you speak up?
I raised my hand. I was completely ignored, but I didn't want to get kicked off. I didn't want to get shut.
Not true. Not true.
Anyway, I have no problem with this application.
Okay, Paul.
I have no comments. No problem with it either.
Melinda.
The things are really handsome. I really like it. And I don't really think it, up to you as to whether you want it 3D or not.
Thanks.
Kate.
I just say I thought the stones being, coming out being sort of 3D and the letters being recessed sounded nice, but that's
that's kind of my suggestion. The stone would be like a half stone that came out. It was similar to the one that we had in West Concord. I just think part of her thing is kind of a budget thing.
Yeah.
And I told her, even if we hand painted it, if she, lasted there, or it worked out for her, I could design it so we could come back and ask and upgrade it and use the same blank and upgrade it next year and then see if that could be approved. But just right now, she's spending a lot of money kind of getting in there and moving stuff around. So I just said, there's a chance that it could be just the hand painted one, but we could actually go back and keep everything in lined up and do it to the same blank for just kind of a second payment from her or something like that. We're trying to work it out. So
Yeah, no, I remember the West Concord sign was good looking, so.
yeah, well, it was simple. She didn't go for the carving there, and I actually did the raised stones for her, no charge, just because I didn't want it to be an all flat sign. So I might even suggest that this one, just so I could say it's mine. So anyway.
Okay, Abigail.
Just to confirm, there's no lighting, correct?
No lighting, no.
And so I would actually make it a requirement that it's either carved or raised for the lettering or the stones, because I think a totally flat sign in this design will appear too modern. I think it's a lovely design. I think the logo and the signage is great, but I think a totally flat sign that looks like this will just be a little bit too modern for the Main Street district. So whatever their preference is in terms of raised letters, carved letters, raised stones, I think something on it has to be 3D in order to be appropriate.
Yeah, well, and then I would say that before we take it to vote, I would say that I would raise the stones, because I think if we had to pick one or the other, those would be the thing that would stick out the most.
Yeah.
So, and I would, like I say, I'd make it work for her. So.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay, Dennis.
I like everything said. Raised stone sounds nice to me. Other than that, I have no comments. Move ahead.
Hey, Catherine.
I agree. I think the raised stones would be great and the way to go if it's possible within the budget. Otherwise, no objections to the signage at all.
And I will say everything that Abigail said. Any public comments? So if there are no public comments, I will ask for a motion to approve the application of 32 Main Street.
I'm happy to do it. I just want to clarify, are we just going to say the raised stones, or are we going to give them the option of raised stones or carved letters?
I would, if I could say what I thought we were talking about would be, it would be, if it was painted letters and at least I did the raised stones, that would be enough. And then if I can get permission, if I could talk her into carving the letters and raising the stones, if I could have those two options, which are the two higher end options, rather than just all paint. Is that doable?
Okay, so moved.
So can you
Did you get all that down?
Are my words actually going to be in the thing as
They'll
like
be cleaned up.
Like I'm one of you guys?
Cleaned up. No, they'll be cleaned up, Billy. I'm sorry, they'll be cleaned up.
All right.
Okay, but let's make it clear. We are requesting that both the stones and the letters be carved and raised, or one or the other, or it's up to the applicant.
I'm confused.
So
I think we're hearing raised stones and painted letters. Isn't that what we're hearing?
at the least, raised stones and painted letters is what I heard, which I think is a great idea. And then if we could still have the option, if I can talk her into the budget of carved, if I can have permission to do either or of those, and both of those are an upgrade from the flat.
All right.
Does that sound right?
Yeah, so that sounds good.
Okay. Yeah, so I'll make a motion that we approve the application for 32 Main Street for the signage with raised stones and either painted or carved letters.
Yes, that'd be
perfect.
Perfect. Second.
Okay, Catherine.
Aye.
Dennis.
Aye.
Abigail.
Aye.
Kate.
Aye.
Melinda.
Aye.
Paul.
Aye.
Nia.
Aye.
I'm an aye as well. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Okay, the next applicant is 29 Main Street for an appropriateness to install signage, one blade and one flat wall sign for Best of British. Is the applicant here? Mr. Murray?
Maybe napping.
So is it appropriate, Heather, to ask for a motion from the commission to continue the application to give the applicant an opportunity to come before the commission?
That would be appropriate.
I just want to say that the applicant was on earlier. I did see her. But obviously she's not here now.
Rather than continue, might we just do the last few items and just check she hasn't gone to the bathroom or something and coming back?
That is a very wise proposition. So if I may, I'm going to propose that we continue for the next applicant, which is 324 Sudbury Road, to replace, alter, and remove windows. Is the applicant here?
Yes.
There you are. Now you are here.
How are you? So this is John Robley here, and I'm Michelle Plum, and we live in the Daniel Chester French studio, which is now a house. What we are here to talk to you about is the second phase of the renovation, which we're just about to take on. That second phase of the renovation is going to largely focus on the second floor and will include reworking the layout of the second floor and replacing 2 bathrooms. During this renovation, the roof line will remain unchanged and no square footage will be added during the course of this work. While this renovation is taking place, we plan to replace most of the remaining windows with those that are either as per existing or as per period appropriate, and the original windows will be professionally restored. We would also like to note that if you look at the plans, the leftmost window on the first floor was replaced as existing in phase 1.
So that's on the street side. I think Heather, just keep going. Yeah, I think the very bottom schematic, correct. The one right there at the very bottom leftmost window was replaced 5 years ago or more as part of our phase 1 renovation.
So looking at the picture right here, that window on the first floor, leftmost next to the sleeping porch, was replaced with a window that appears as existing. And during the second phase of the renovation, we are asking to do the same thing with the remainder of the windows facing the street.
And the other windows per the plan.
Okay, and then how about you show this to make this clear, because I know it's late. Basically, the window you see in the right side elevation, on the first floor, that's the window that is original to the house, and we're going to have that professionally restored. And the one,
Oh, I think you meant left side, Michelle. Yeah,
right.
Correct. Thank you, Heather.
That one.
Yeah, that one there. That's
It says
original.
right side.
Yeah, right side, but left side of the right side.
Oh, yeah.
That one will be restored. The one above that is definitely not original. It's a very early double pane window.
Can you see this?
Yeah, if you drive by, it's a single pane of glass, totally not period appropriate.
So the one in the bottom is original to the house, and we're going to have it professionally restored. The one on top is the modern picture window, and as per the plan, we're proposing to replace it with something period appropriate. So those double hung windows you can see in the plan. And then to reiterate, if you can see, can you see this?
Yeah, they're good. Yeah.
You can see that the second part of the discussion, where the one on the left first floor is already replaced, and we're planning to do the same work. It's gonna look exactly the same, but with the new windows.
And then I think in addition to that, there's some minor moves to windows. We're taking out a window that's not visible off the street in the very back. And there's also a vinyl window in our guest bathroom that's being replaced by a period appropriate window according to the plans.
Which is gonna be period appropriate.
So maybe we should stop and see if any of the commissioners have questions for us.
Of course, we're sorry, go ahead. Well, thanks for your presentation. I will ask Dennis to make a thorough analysis of this proposal, him being the window expert.
I think that they have done a wonderful job of restoring this and bringing this house back, and been very, very sensitive to the restoration. I have no problems with any of this. They're restoring windows where they can restore them. They're replacing them based on early photographs and research where they can. I hope I'm correct in that. And so I don't see anything but good things with this project and a continued rehabilitation of a great site.
Thank you, Dennis. It's a historic moment. Abigail, please.
You know, my goodness, with Dennis giving his thumbs up, what can you say? No, I agree. This is what we look to see when it comes to windows, restored when they can be, replaced when they have to be, and I have no objection.
Thank you, Abigail. Kate.
You guys have been great stewards of this place, and I have no problems with what you've proposed.
Melinda.
Kudos to you both.
Paul.
Yes, just one question. Are any original windows being replaced in this round, or are all the windows which are being replaced not original?
The only windows that are being replaced are not original.
Okay, I'm in total agreement with earlier comments. This looks fine to me.
Nia.
No further comment. These guys do a great job, so thank you.
Catherine?
I agree. I think it looks like a great plan.
And I agree with everybody else. So any public comments? Well, in the absence of public comments, I will ask the commissioners to make a motion for Sudbury Road.
I move that we approve the application for 324 Sudbury Road to replace, alter, and remove windows as submitted.
Second.
Okay. Catherine?
Aye.
Dennis?
Aye.
Abigail?
Aye.
Kate?
Aye.
Melinda?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Nia?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. So congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you all for your kind words.
The fastest window application ever.
Well, Dennis saw it before when we did phase one, so.
Oh, no, don't take any credit away from you. Dennis didn't have anything to do. It was just his first impression. He was so impressed.
It's late.
Well, we hope you find your missing sign applicants so everyone can finally get to bed tonight. And thanks again for your time.
Thanks for coming by.
Thank you.
So, Heather, have we found our lost applicant?
I'm not sure. There is a hand raised. Steve.
There's a Steve. Maybe he's muted.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah, now we can.
Okay. I'm sorry about that. my computer connection disconnected a few moments before we were supposed to speak, so I had to reboot and try and get back on. And in the process, I've also lost the video, so you can't see me. But I apologize, but I'm here. I sat through all the other applications, and I don't know, some act of God happened just before it was my turn to speak. So I'm presenting an application for signage for our business at 29 Main Street, which will be called Best of British. We're proposing to install signage which in the same footprint as the pre-existing business. There are two signs there, a broad sign above the doorway and also a sign which hangs out into the street. And we're proposing to use the existing brackets for the signs and to keep the dimensions the same as pre-existing signage. In terms of the materials, I mean, I think it's outlined there on the diagram. You know, we're proposing raised lettering. That's it, basically.
Okay, let's have Nia make any comments.
I just want to, can I confirm that the wall sign, that is the exact same dimensions of, what was that, Liz Evans? I can't remember. Potpourri? I can't remember. What was that?
Potpourri.
Potpourri. Is that the exact dimensions of that original sign?
Yes, we're proposing it's going in exactly the same footprint as the original sign.
Okay. I don't have a lot of question on this one.
Okay, Paul.
Yes, just clarify for me, or either a member or the applicant, is this just a painted flat sign, or are these letters raised or carved, or?
They're raised letters. The material is Comatex, I'm told, or sometimes called Coma Cell. It's kind of an artificial wood raised lettering.
And the color of the letters?
The colors are as depicted in the diagram. They're blue lettering.
Okay, blue lettering, a white background, and then is there a blue border or a black border?
Yeah, it's a blue border.
Consistent with the color of the letters?
Exactly, yeah. Exactly, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Melinda.
It's funny because on my screen, the letters are red. So I think it's fine. I'm sure it's a different color than what I'm looking at, but I think it's fine.
Kate.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. I think it's fine. I'm fine with the dimensions and proportion, and no questions.
Abigail.
So I just want to clarify, because we've got two different photographs, two different mock-ups. One attached to the application has a red border, and then this, so that has a red border, blue letters. And obviously this has a blue border. And I can't tell if the blue letters have just been overlaid red letters here, or is there any red to the lettering on the sign?
There is a red shading on the letters.
Like a shadow, okay.
A red shadowing on the letters. And the blue is what we want to go with. The red was the first attempt, and we thought it was a little too bright, too bright. So we felt that the blue would tone it down a little bit, and it was more consistent with our image. So the blue is the final rendition.
Okay. And did you submit actual color chips for the blue and the red and the white?
Yeah, we did.
Okay, so we have those on file. Okay. No, I don't have any objection.
Dennis?
I think it's fine. As long as it's the blue, I like the blue around both. And I gather they'll be around both. I think it's fine.
Catherine?
I think it looks very handsome. I think it's great.
And I echo everybody else's comments. Any
Louise?
public comments?
Louise, can I just ask?
Sure.
Sorry, just want to ask, what's going on with the O? Is that a Busby?
Yeah, it's a guardsman. It's and within that we have the Union Jack. So it's.
Oh, I see. Very clever. Okay.
We try to incorporate some Britishness into the sign.
Very sensible.
Icon for us.
Thank you.
Are you going to sell any pins, number one?
Tim's cups.
Pim's cup.
Good idea.
Okay, any public comments? So if there are no public comments, I ask for a motion for the application of 29 Main Street for installed signage.
I move that we approve the motion for certificate of appropriateness with respect to 29 Main Street to install a blade sign and a flat sign consistent with the renderings presented by the applicant.
I'll second.
Okay. Motion seconded. So Catherine?
Aye.
Dennis?
Aye.
Abigail?
Aye.
Kate? Did you say yes, Kate? Okay, you are muted. Paul?
Aye.
Mia?
Yes.
And I'm an aye. So congratulations.
Thank you very much. It's been a long evening.
Yeah, been a long evening.
So we have some other business. The first one is the discussion of 37 Lexington Road, the Concord Art is planning a large addition to the rear of the building. John Barrett would like to meet with the commission to review the proposed plans and get initial feedback for the project. Project plans are on the website. Is John Barrett here?
Well, his iPad is.
Myself, do I turn my own video on? I do. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, you do everything.
Terrific. Okay, that's fine. Great. So I'm here to present to you with some proposed changes to the Concord Art Association. Also with us here tonight are Kate James, the director, and Stan Black, who is the chairman of the building committee. So in light of the timing and the fact that this is an informal, I'll try and be somewhat brief in an overall description to kind of give you a sense of the overall direction of what we're thinking about. The goal of the Concord Center for Visual Arts has always been to bring together creative people and to try and explore new ideas. Founder Elizabeth Brentwood Roberts was joined in this effort when she did this by the likes of Daniel Chester French, John Singer Sargent, Mary Cassatt, and Claude Monet. They were all looking for a community of like-minded people. The institution is just celebrating its 100th year anniversary. So through COVID, the members and the supporters have really actually dramatically increased all their involvement. And so this has brought to our attention that the limits of a single classroom and how that has become a bit of an encumbrance. So we'd like to, after looking at several alternatives, we'd like to propose a change. If you could go ahead and bring up the plan. So this is the existing inside space of the gallery, which was done, which has basically been sort of the flagship space for the display of art at Concord Art, which is now called the Center for Visual Arts. And our proposal is there is an existing classroom which shows, which is outlined lightly in gray in the back, and we want to remove a one-story building and to replace it with a larger one-story building. The existing volume that's proposed is very singular in nature, and is quite distinctive in terms of its volumetrics in contrast to the existing building. So if we could just go through the site plan and quickly go through, I think the floor plan is to be able to replace that building at the back with another single-story building. And I think the best way to communicate this thing is to look at the elevations, which I know is what you're ultimately end up being focused on, and the little three-dimensional model, which we will be able to use to explain our intent. So the intent is to take this piece, which we're calling the art barn, and to let it become a more singular piece at the back of the property, just the way old antique barns would have sat behind the house. We want to develop this in a bit more of a contemporary vocabulary rather than trying to copy the historic nature of the building, to try and use we like the kind of the volumetrics of the kind of barn spirit, but we also want to use a vocabulary which is more appropriate for something built here in the 21st century. On all the parts facing the street are quite barn-like in the sense that there's very little glass showing forward. The piece facing the back of the property actually has an extensive curtain wall of glass, which enlivens the studio. The spirit for this glass wall is derived from the character of that gallery space that has sort of been the heart of the gallery, the Art Association, for so long. That piece of glass is actually, initially we didn't think it was visible from the street, but we realized it actually is visible. If you go way up into the cemetery and look down, you actually can see ever so slightly, you can see that wall, but you also do see that the existing building has this dramatic skylight up on the top of the old portion of the building. So if you go to the next slide, please. So on the inside, it has a very bold feeling to it, giving us this feeling, which is what they really are after, which is trying to be sort of a progressive place to explore new ideas in the art world. And that sort of is the underlying principle of what we're trying to do. That sort of is the essence of what we want to do. I'll be happy to go into it in greater length about specifics, but that's the fundamental character of what we're after. To try and create this spot that has a bold sensibility about it, and yet to preserve the character of the historic district from the street, not try and assault with a lot of glass to the street, but allow us to be a little bit bolder in our undertaking, looking back towards the hillside and the north of the property. So that's sort of the essence of our plan.
Well, thanks very much. This is a very nice presentation. We can go formally through each member of the commission, but if anybody wants to just kick in and make any comments, probably Kate wants to make a comment. You're muted.
Oh. Which Kate? Kate Chardner or Kate James?
Kate Chardner.
Oh.
Sorry.
Well, I am familiar with this place. I don't work there anymore, but I'm familiar with their needs and with their, what they want to achieve. And I do happen to think this strikes a good balance.
And I don't want to be rude, etc. So I'll ask the other Kate to make a comment. Kate James. You're muted.
No, she talks really soft.
Yeah.
But I carry a big stick.
And I can read lips.
I don't know. I think John did a great job. I do want to position the art barn. It is our 100th anniversary. And 100 years ago, Lois Lily Howe, who was a very amazing female architect who she studied at MIT. She was the first woman to graduate from there. She was the first woman to start a women's architecture firm in the country. So it was really great when John decided to use her beautiful idea from 100 years ago to create the glass wall in the back of the gallery. So that's my biggest comment, because I know you all are very interested in looking to history, and I admire that. And I'm excited about the way this space will be able to bring Concord art into the future, but also how the views in the back and the north light that comes into the studio is quite beautiful. And I think will be a wonderful thing for the community. People love to rent the space for parties. I'm not going to go on, but I'd love to give anybody a tour who wants to come by. Thank you.
Thanks for those very nice comments. So Nia, would you like to make a comment?
Hi, John. I really like the contemporary feel to it. I don't know whether, you know, how firm your numbers are at this point, but I'd be interested in the, you know, because it's sometimes hard to tell with those 3D renderings, the ridge height of the new portion versus the ridge height of the front building.
Let's go take a look at the elevation. The elevation actually characterizes that in a more precise linear manner. So right there, you can see that the volume at the back is still substantially lower than the ridge of the existing house, the existing structure.
Okay. And
I can't give you a dimension off the top of my head, but I'm sure that one of my staff guys who's on with us probably could in just a moment.
Right, and I love the wall of glass. Is this something that you have neighbors that are likely to be upset by this?
We have not yet broached the subject with anyone. The way this came about is that we had a staff review with all the departments of the town, and it was suggested that the first place for us to stop was to do an informal with you.
Mm-hmm.
I think as soon as we have taken this initial step, we will be reaching out to the critical abutters to review the proposed design with them. I think that the glass wall itself is really not visible unless you are at a very oblique angle to it. And because it does face directly to the stone wall and the hillside. So you would really have to go way up into the cemetery to be able to see it. So I don't think it's a big visual issue. We were very focused on trying to keep all the fenestration to the street side to be to be somewhat closed, to sort of contain this idea that it was a very sided space. One was in one direction is quite closed and the other direction is quite open and transparent.
Well, thank you. And my initial impression is favorable.
Thank you.
You want to make a comment, Paul?
You know, it looks like a very imaginative and good design, John. Not surprising coming out of your office and you. But on the glass curtain wall on the north facing side, are those individual lights, or do they just appear to have, or are they sheets?
We will be doing a simulated divided light like we have done in many other windows for HTC applications. It is not an applied grille. It's integral to the window. It's not something you can remove. But if you were to actually break it with a hammer, it would be a large piece of glass that was broken that would have to be replaced.
Right, understood. And just refresh me, at the moment, there is a back building that is attached?
There is. If we go look at we included the existing conditions documents in the later part of the package there. Heather, if you could go to the end, you can see we have a preliminary landscape design, which we'd be happy to talk through as well. But I thought the fundamentals here were to be able to the critical thing was to cover the fundamentals with you, and then we'll go into the details when we do a formal proper application. So if you keep going a little bit further, Heather, you should see the existing elevations of the building. So there is, you can see there on the, go back one if you would. So there you can see on the right-hand side of that lower elevation, you can see there's a one-story roof. And what we're doing is to come up with a little bit bolder structure that's more akin to a barn, sort of in keeping with so many great New England traditional farm organizations, and let that become sort of the flagship. And that's sort of where we came up with this term, the art barn. That's sort of going to be our it's kind of our driving principle to help us make decisions about how things go. If we go back and look at the elevation, the three-dimensional drawings, we do expect that the exterior will be, we aren't quite settled on the color. We definitely want to, the intent is to keep the small little pieces that link the existing building to the new art barn, to keep those in sort of the white and sympathetic, sort of a kind of match existing kind of vocabulary, with wood windows and sort of in that white aesthetic. And the new art barn would just be handled simply, the singular volume of the new work would have its definitive color, which would be either a gray or a dark green. We're sort of experimenting things. We expect the material to be a 1x6 vertical siding with very tight roof details to differentiate it from the traditional architecture. So to reemphasize that distinction. And it's our hope to be able to use some sort of a clad window that has been approved in other locations in the HDC. So the windows in this piece would be a clad window. The windows in the piece that is sort of the white, the old antique volume connector parts would be in a traditional wood window, the way the rest of the building is.
Okay, thank you very much. That's helpful, and it looks great.
Thank you, Paul. Melinda?
I have no questions about this. I think it looks nice. You're putting solar panels on the back there? Is that what I'm looking at?
No, the back faces due north. If I was to be bold enough as to suggest a solar panel, I thought I would be blown out of the water, so I chose. There's no place on this building.
What am I looking at there under the chimney?
Under the chimney.
On the right-hand side chimney.
Those are the skylights. That's the existing skylight.
That's the existing skylight that lights the existing gallery.
Okay.
And if you go up on the, and I'll bring, I have a whole presentation of existing photographs, which is could be quite extensive, but I chose to kind of leave that out for tonight because I knew we were going to be brief. But I'll be happy to. But no, the answer is no solar, even though we'd love to try it.
Okay.
And just so you know, that skylight was put in 100 years ago, and the what looks like solar panels create the skylight, and that's a drop ceiling that you're looking at now, and that was modeled after traditional Parisian atelier galleries to create natural light in a gallery.
Nice.
Very nice. That's the way. I'm sorry. Go ahead. So that's our intent. Our goal here is to complete an application with the HDC over the course of the coming weeks, and to be able to file formally. And we wanted to introduce this to you. The landscape plan is simply to keep the front a very simple linear walkway going back to the new entrance between the classroom portion and the gallery portion. Very clean on the front, and to put some terracing in the back for exterior classes and some plein air painting situations.
Abigail, would you like to make any comments?
No, I think it's a really interesting proposal, and I like the kind of modern condensed spin on kind of big house, little house, back house, barn. I think it's an interesting interpretation of that, and I'm excited to see the full application.
Thank you.
Thank you, Abigail. Dennis?
Two comments. One, I'm going to want to know more about the building you're taking down. Not that I'm averse to that. I just like to know more about the history of it. Don't get into it now. In terms of the application, I'd like to know more. The other thing is, you have a faux barn door on the front facing Lexington Road?
No, the facing Lexington Road, we just have that elevation on the right there, we simply have a single glass window on the right-hand side of the barn. We have
What's the, is that a porch? What is the
It's a porch.
It's just a window. It's just a window in the wall. It's best.
And to the left is a porch.
visualized.
That's a porch? Is that what the white is the porch?
Correct. The best way to understand that is to go look at the 3D piece, which is the quick way to, so if you look right there, there's a little porch.
Right, I see it.
Okay.
And you don't
Gives
want
you-
any more glass, you don't want any more glass on that side, or you don't think we'd like more glass on that side?
I don't think we want more glass. We would like the idea of sort of keeping these small sort of punctured openings facing the street. And then this glass wall facing the back that's in a more contained and private spot. We like the contrast between the two different sides. We like to have sort of the sided quality to it. So it's not a symmetrical situation. I just felt bolder and sort of following in the footsteps of so many of the creative people who've been ahead of us doing this sort of stuff. We thought it was a good direction.
Also, the north light is the best light for an art studio. So that's why when you bring in west and east and south, that creates more challenges when you're doing artwork.
There you have it.
Other than that, I like it. I think it's a great proposal. John, you could have bought one cheap from the Concord Museum a while back.
Thank you, Dennis. Catherine.
Yes, I do have things to say. So I always allow myself initially more of a visceral response, and I have to say the visceral response was and is very favorable. I actually really love it, and there's a lot of information here to digest, but I love sort of marrying the old with the new. I love the rear glass wall, but I appreciate the individual small glazed windows because again, it sort of references, a more colonial or traditional take on the glazing. And I just think the proportions are very pleasing, and I think it's great. I like it very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. And if I may say, I think that this is a great project because it does exactly what I believe architecture should do in a historic place, which is to take the old structure of the barn house, the little house, more house, etc., and transforms it for something that looks initially as something that has been there for 200 years. But when you go around and you realize that it's actually a modern space with lots of glass and things going on, but that one doesn't detract from the other. You see, it's a perfect balance. So I'm actually quite excited about this project, and I hope that it comes to a very happy conclusion.
Well, thank you all for your feedback. That's terrific. Based on that, we will continue to proceed. We will be filing this formal application over the course of the next few weeks. The timing is not exactly clear. We've only just obtained a survey which has a lot of the specifics, so we have a little bit of catching up to do on that frontier. We had an old survey, but it's been updated. So we will be coming back to you as soon as we can, and we look forward to seeing you in a formal capacity very, very shortly.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Okay. Now we should have a discussion of 24 Main Street. The contractor is worried that the weather will not allow for him to paint the building after November 18th meeting when the application is in the agenda. So he just basically wants to paint the building beforehand and make the application later. Is that correct, Heather?
Yes, so the application's already been submitted. It's on the agenda for the 18th. O'Dare here is the contractor. He's just worried about weather and timing with getting the building painted with some of the work that he's already been doing on the building and protecting it from the elements through the winter. So I think he just wanted to discuss possibly if there's no issues with the paint color, possibly giving him the go ahead and start painting. And then the formal application could be approved at the next meeting.
If I can make a comment, I don't think that we have the ability to pre-approve something that has not been considered with a formal application. But we have very specific and precise guidelines about what colors would be appropriate. So my take on this matter is that the contractor has to take a chance, and he can go and paint something that, and then submit an application for that particular scheme of colors, and hopefully it will be approved. And of course, there's a great chance of it being approved as long as it goes with the recommended colors. I think that Paul has a question or a very important comment, as usual.
I don't know that it's important, but I wonder whether we couldn't advance the cause a little by taking a look at the colors and at least giving him a heads up. I mean, we've just done that for an entire project at the art museum. This poor man's asking for our reflexes on paint color. And then I think you're right. You helpful by reacting.
But it's going to be just our reflexes. It's nothing, it's not going to hold officially from any perspective.
Do we have any photographs or paint chips or anything to look at?
Yes, so here's the current building with the current colors, and they're proposing to paint the body edgecomb gray with black trim.
I would go back to what I said before. You see, I think that it's perfectly fine. Those colors seems to be part of the Concord palette. So if this was a formal presentation, I personally would not have any particular issue with these colors. On the other hand, we just cannot endorse anything at this point.
Luis, a comment has been brought up to me a number of times how ugly the color scheme of the current building is. And I've always defended it because I think it is a historical precedent. And so I'm not in favor of ruining a historical precedent for a building by agreeing to some color scheme tonight on the sly without doing much more research about how long that building has been painted that color.
That's exactly the point I wanted to echo, in the sense that the applicant can try, but if we don't approve the color that it's already there, and if we approve another color, this is going to have to paint the thing again. Yeah. So,
Dennis, are you aware? Is it the body of the building that is the one in question, or is it the trim color?
I think the whole scheme may be Victorian, maybe early from some period. I'm not sure of that, and it may have been altered by tone over time. I don't know, but I'd like to know more about it. Unfortunately, probably a lot of the early photos are black and white, so we're not going to know a lot. But I just don't want to move too quickly in a matter of taste rather than a matter of historical accuracy. So if that building has always been painted in the kind of tones it is now, we may not like it from a taste point of view, but it may be historically accurate within the downtown, because it's not a very old building. That's a Victorian building, or at least the way it looks today, it's Victorian.
So I don't believe that we can make any recommendation about this matter. You see, I think that if the applicant wants to go ahead and paint something and then submit an application, then he has the chance of not having what he already put in there approved. So, I don't think that we can pronounce ourselves in this matter in any way.
Oh, dear. Did you have any other questions?
Yes. Good evening for everybody, and thanks for placing that opportunity to come here and explain. So they're planning to painting the building, but for now, I'm not painting the front from Main Street because the time, so we're not going to have a time. What we'll be painting at this point will be just that big wall when you come from Main Street and get it on that driveway to the back parking lot and a part of the backing building. So, and then they go from there on next spring, because I spoke with Heather and she says once we have a color approved, so we have like a 6 month to get the whole job completed in case of painting. So at this time, would be just that big wall from the driveway side and 1/3 from the back. And then Landvast and Bob will be discussing the costs to paint the other third for the building. I would be painting at this point just the Scott, the hardware's owner part. And I noticed that one of you was thinking about like what that building has in terms of colors on the past. As I was doing some trim replacement, I saw some black painting under the existing brown. At least on the trim, I know that building has had a black trim before, but I don't know about the body. But for the trim, I'm pretty sure, because on the old trim that I was replacing, there was a black paint under the chips that I was like replacing.
Wow.
Okay. Thanks for that information.
Interesting.
Just as a matter of clarification, the time periods that you have mentioned, it's 6 months to start the project, but you have 3 years to complete it. So as long as it is started within 6 months, you have 3 years after the moment that the project starts to have it completed. So I don't know if the commission, any members of the commission can make any other comments, but I don't think that we can make any pronouncement on this matter. See, I think that we should have a formal application with a color palette, and then we will discuss it and we will approve it or deny it.
Now, there's no reason, though, they can't go ahead and paint the back of the building the color it is now. They can certainly do that if they wanted to.
That is certainly an option. Okay, so I don't think that there are any further comments, and we encourage the applicant to present an application. And perhaps the exception or the way to facilitate the process is to see if we could make the applicant have the application in for the next meeting in 2 weeks. I don't know if that's possible, Heather, according to the open meeting laws and so forth.
They already have an application in for the next meeting.
Okay, then I think that that's the most we can do. If anyone knows of any other venue that we can do to help the applicant, then I'd like to know it, but I don't see any other way. Okay, so if there's no further discussion about this, I will move to the number 3 of the other business, which is the updated membership process. I think that Kate had some very interesting discussions with a prospective a member of the commission, which I don't know if you were able to persuade Mr. Moss, right? Kate Chartner.
You're muted.
I'm muted, but also you got cut off. I heard persuade, and then that was it. Were you talking about Henry Moss?
I was talking about Henry Moss, whether you convince him that the place to be is the Historic Districts Commission.
I've been trying. He's being very methodical, and I won't malign Chairman Nobile for maybe being too frank with Henry, but I was like, oh, it's great, you'll be fabulous, you can do it in a snap, whatever else. But I think Peter probably gave him a better purview. Henry's hesitation is that he's actually never really worked on residential matters, that he's more of an institution sort of specialist. So anyway, no, I've made no progress.
Okay, I will add that in a couple of weeks I will be having lunch with a very close friend of Mr. Moss. So I will try to recruit my friend to see if he can recruit Mr. Moss. And not having expertise on the particular subjects, I don't think that's ever been any problem for the Historic Districts Commission, right? They even have doctors there. Okay, thank you, Kate. There's a comprehensive long-range response letter that I don't know what Peter has been working on. Can you give us an update, Heather?
So I have the most updated chart on the website. I don't know if you just want to leave it as Peter and I can work on this together because it is due November 10th. If you just want to give Peter and I the authority to update as needed and submit it.
Okay, I would like to hear opinions from the members of the commission whether we should convey to Peter and Heather the authority to carry on this statement. We can have a voice vote.
Heather, I haven't had time to read the latest, but did you get the comments I sent?
I did. I'm not really sure where we can fit them in to this chart. I think maybe they're more of just like an internal discussion that the commission needs to have.
Yeah, my comments basically for the commission, and I know it's late, is that we're not looking at this holistically. My concern about the town and the historic districts is how the municipality treats the streetscape and the landscapes of the historic district. And what I frankly find a lack of sensitivity to the historical aspects. And what I'd like to see is a more comprehensive plan, or at least they're thinking on how they're going to treat the streetscape going along. What I mean by this, and let me give you an example. If you take a look at the work they did by the Concord Museum in front of the Emerson House, and I was involved in approving that, little did they ever think they would take down Emerson's original stone wall that probably was on that piece of property before Emerson owned it. It was a rubble, early stone wall, and formalized it, took away the stone and formalized it with this really slick contemporary wall. You'll see it around town. They're putting in a lot of granite curbing, a lot of signage. They're taking away the dirt sidewalks, which I know sound terrible just to say that, and formalizing them with pavement. And I want to know where they're going with this. We approved some work that was done by the Trinitarian on the corner by the post office. I should have taken a stronger stand against it. They could not prove that there was any, they brought out the whole issue of the poor people that cross there might be hit by cars, it's a danger, and families, oh my God. But they never could find any evidence that there've been a lot of accidents at that corner. So now we're gonna have it formalized. We're gonna take a landscape that's probably been like that for 100 years, and they're gonna formalize it with granite curbing and curb cuts and signs. My worry is an overall destruction of the town's historic district from the inside, from the town, eroding all the more countrified aspects of a country town. So that's what I think ought to be in the plan. I don't know where it fits in.
I think that you should meet with Peter and try to put those thoughts into the response of the Historic Districts Commission to the Envision Plan, because I basically echo everything you said, and actually I did look at the study of the intersection in front of the Emerson House and the Concord Museum, and indeed there was absolutely no evidence that there was any risk of accidents or pedestrians being hit or anything like that.
Right. Anyway, that's my 2 cents worth.
So I offer to speak with Peter and to convey the concerns of Dennis and try to formulate a more direct response to all these issues, because I think that those issues are very important.
I did send this, not only did I send it to Heather, but I did send my comments to Peter. I did not share it with the rest of the commission, but I would be glad to if that would be a good idea.
Yes, that probably it's a good idea. Okay, if there's no further discussion about this, we could talk about the 2022 meeting schedule. Do we have to do that right now?
I think we can put that off to the next meeting.
I agree. And minutes. I look at all the minutes, but one of them was particularly difficult, so I had to give up. So I don't have a whole view of the whole minutes myself. So can we also postpone the issue of the minutes? Is that possible? Heather?
I think we could. We really need to approve them at the next meeting, though.
Okay. Has anybody read at least some of the minutes?
I was just about to say,
Yeah, well-
can we do some of the minutes?
Yeah, can we?
Please approve the
we-
oldest ones, right?
The this is like the 10th time. The 9/16 meeting, I was away, so I cannot vouch for what happened. And Peter said he was going to read it for this meeting, and he's not here. So I don't know whether the rest of you are comfortable with what it says, but that's the deal with the 10/16 meetings.
I just want to say, I read the 9/16 meeting, and that was the one that I was comfortable with. So I would vote that we approve the 9/16 meeting.
I would second that.
I can make a roll call, or should we have a voice vote?
Just a show of hands.
Let's do a show of hands. Okay, we approve the minutes of 9/16. So the minutes of 10/7 were the complicated ones. That includes 615 Lowell Road. I would suggest that we hold on to that until we have a chance to read in further detail. And then the minutes from 10/21. That was fairly straightforward from my perspective. I don't know if anybody else read it. Did you have a chance to read it, Nia?
I think I did, Heather. Did I send those in? I think I did. I'm losing the plot at this point.
Yeah.
I don't know if you may have sent them to Heather Carey. I don't know.
I may have sent them to Heather.
I got them.
Heather's probably asleep by now.
I'm here.
Okay.
Turn my camera off and go to bed. Nia, I got 10/7 edits from you.
But not 10/21?
I don't think so.
Okay, then I haven't read them. I send them right away, so because I'm senile.
Okay, so we already have a voice vote on 10/7, and I suggest that we approve them with Nia's corrections. I don't think that we can approve the 10/21 and not 10/7. So we're gonna have to postpone those for the next meeting.
Mr. Chairman?
Speaking.
Yeah, at least Nia and I have both commented on the 10/7 minutes in writing to Heather, to the Heathers. So I don't know if that helps, gives any reassurance. But
No, that helps. But I was saying that we have approved the 10/7 with a show of hands. We just did. So I am comfortable with the 10/7 ones. The 10/21 is the one that I'm not.
No, you said the.
No, I'm incorrect. We approved the 9/16. The 10/7, my inclination would be to have at least another read, even if there were thoughtful comments, at least have Peter have a look at it. Or we can approve them right now. If you feel strongly that they can be approved as they stand from Nia and Paul, then we can have a show of hands and approve 10/7. Should we approve 10/7?
Heather, is
Sure,
it,
if you've had comments and they're fine.
Heather, is it critical?
It's up to you guys. We can continue it if you want to. Just people need to commit to reading them if we continue them.
Well, I propose that we continue 10/7. I think that it's a delicate issue, and we have to be absolutely certain that nothing was overlooked, which I doubt. But you know, it's worth giving it another chance.
Okay, so we're continuing both 11/7 and,
10/7 and 10/21.
Good, fine. Okay, done.
Okay. All right. So I will hear a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
So the meeting is adjourned.
All in
Luis,
favor?
you did a, hi. And Luis did a great job tonight. It was a tough night.
Yeah, that's a
Did
tough
I?
night to step
Yes,
into the
thank
chair.
you, Luis.